Chapter 124. Tonight, Zhao Xueqing was dressed up. She wore an off-the-shoulder white evening gown, revealing her snow-white back. On her flawless neck that was like a jade carving, the 8 blessings necklace rippled with a faint glow, making her look radiant and beautiful. Her pure white face was lightly powdered. Her clear and beautiful eyes twinkled like the morning stars, and her cherry lips with pink lip gloss were like cherries with dewdrops hanging from them. However, her entire person exuded a kind of ethereal and pure aura, causing people to adore her without the slightest blasphemy. As she walked, a pair of snow-white beautiful feet were faintly discernible under her naturally wrinkled skirt. Her pink toes were painted with bright fingernail polish, giving her a rare charm amidst her purity. She was so beautiful that it could move one's soul. It could be said that Zhao Xueqing attracted countless gazes as soon as she appeared. Unknowingly, she suppressed all the women, making all the men and women gasp in amazement. The men's hearts beat faster, and the women sighed at their inferiority. Even Guo Jihua paled in comparison, and sighed at her inferiority. She won in terms of beauty, but she always had a bit of a mortal aura. Zhao Xueqing, on the other hand, was no exaggeration to say that she was like a fairy from the heavens, pure and flawless. However, Zhao Xueqing's small face was delicate and timid, and her eyes seemed to be a bit nervous, which made Tang Xiaozi involuntarily have a desire to protect her. He even wanted to announce loudly, "This is the woman I love, and none of you can offend her today." However, when he saw Zhao Xueqing affectionately holding Jiang Tian's arm, it was as if a basin of cold water was poured over his head. His eyes suddenly turned cold, and became a bit sinister. "Is this that bastard?" The muscles on his cheeks twitched a few times, and a burst of anger and hatred burned in his heart. "You still dare to come to my home ground? Are you provoking me and showing off? You're courting death. However, I heard that this brat is a huge piece of trash. If I step out and crush him, it would be an insult to myself. It would make me seem narrow-minded." "Forget it, Iron Light Emperor," by Chofei Lu Fan, and the other rich and powerful young masters probably won't let him go. Let them do whatever they want. I only need to watch a good show. In the blink of an eye, many thoughts flashed through Tang Xiaozi's mind, but he smiled indifferently as if he didn't see Jiang Tian. He threw a glance at Lu Fan and pulled old Mo toward the tide-listening villa. "Elder Mo, I heard that a Master Kong from Lingnan killed the Grandmaster of Hubei Province, Hong Tianzhao. The rumor has been spreading like wildfire. Is it true?" Very soon his figure disappeared from Tidehark Villa 12. Receiving the hint from Tang Xiaozi's eyes, Lu Fan immediately understood. He arrogantly walked in front of Jiang Tian, raised his chin and proudly said, "Isn't this Miss Zhao from Yang City? 3 years ago, our Tang Real Estate ordered 50 million worth of goods from your company. Do you know about this matter?" "Oh, so it's Director Lu. I know about this matter." Zhao Xueqing smiled faintly with an unnatural look on her face. There were serious problems with the quality of that batch of goods. Not a single box was sold, and it's still rotting in the warehouse. I'll have to trouble you to refund it. His face was cold as he said, "Otherwise, I don't think any company here will cooperate with a company that doesn't have good reputation, and whose products are of inferior quality. Yeah, this kind of trashy company even dares to cheat young Master Tang. They're simply audacious. We must ban them. Have the province investigate thoroughly. They'll have to bear legal responsibility. Who dares to cooperate with such an untrustworthy company?" Many tycoons echoed, including the bosses of famous pharmaceutical companies. Seeing this, Zhao Xueqing panicked. She didn't expect that the other party would go straight to the heart and put her in a passive position with just a few words. She had just squeezed out a smile, but before she could organize her words, Jiang Tian waved his hand and said, "Where did this fly come from? It's just a nuisance here." As soon as he said this, everyone present was shocked. They couldn't help but look at each other in disbelief. This Jiang Tian was really a lunatic. Although Lu Fan was only Tang Xiaozi's assistant, he was also a second-tier young master with a powerful background in Yangcheng. His uncle was the deputy secretary of the provincial drug administration, and the Zhao family was in the pharmaceutical industry. It was natural for them to avoid him. If Jiang Tian had a powerful background, it wouldn't be a big deal. But he was just from a small place in Linzhou. Moreover, he was a crazy son-in-law. How dare he speak so arrogantly? Hearing Jiang Tian's words, Lu Fan was so angry that his face turned red. Just as he was about to explode, Yin Peng in camouflage uniform strode forward and pointed at Jiang Tian proudly. Little brat, you don't know what's good for you. Young Master Lu is speaking to you. He arrogantly scolded with a ruthless expression. Immediately kneel down, kowtow, admit your mistake, and call us grandfathers 3 times. Otherwise, I'll break your dog legs. Hee, Yin Peng is a member of the ferocious tiger. He's already in the iron body realm. He's done for. That's right, Yin Peng has a bad temper. If he doesn't agree with him, he'll cripple someone. I'm afraid this brat will really have to go out lying down. When the crowd saw Yin Peng take the lead, they immediately became excited and gloatingly discussed among themselves. Jiang Tian, are you crazy? How can you speak to young Master Lu like that? Hurry up and apologize. Wei Jihui shouted. He didn't have any feelings for Jiang Tian, and he couldn't stand how arrogant Jiang Tian was in front of the Wei family. Wei Jieqiong's eyes were also cold as she thought. Brat, do you know how deep the water is in Yangcheng? This is the result of being arrogant and ignorant. Seeing Lu Fan and Yin Peng speak up, Wei Yang was so scared that his face turned pale. He pulled the girls of the Wei family back and whispered, "Stay away from him. He's in trouble today. Don't splash his blood all over you. This is retribution. That day, you forced my father to kneel at Crouching Dragon Villa and humiliated him. Today, it's finally your turn." Zhou Xianya's eyes were filled with hatred and mockery. She looked at Jiang Tian as if she was looking at a dead person. At this moment, everyone looked at Jiang Tian with disdain. They were judging, indifferent, disdainful, mocking and gloating. It was as if Jiang Tian could only kneel and beg for mercy in the next moment, becoming the biggest topic of conversation and joke of the banquet tonight. Unexpectedly, Jiang Tian's expression didn't change. He waved his hand and took out 2 glasses of champagne from the waiter's tray. He handed one to Zhao Xueqing and took a sip himself. He ordered, "Mange, slap her." "Yes, master." The last slap was even more stunning. With a crisp slap, Yin Peng's body, which weighed more than 200 kilograms and was like a small mountain, flew out without any feeling of weightlessness. Then with a boom he hit the ground. The ground shook and dust flew. Her figure swayed and she slapped Lu Fan's face again. He couldn't withstand a single blow. Half of his face was shattered and he fell to the ground in a coma. What? He dared to hit them. He's crazy. He's crazy. This is the banquet of bliss. Lu Fan and Yin Peng are Tang Xiao's loyal followers. He dared to hit them? He's too arrogant. Many rich and famous people present were dumbfounded. They couldn't believe that Jiang Tian was so strong. Jiang Tian, how dare you hit them? Zhou Xianya's body trembled and she screamed. No one knew whether she was shocked or angry. Why wouldn't I? They're just trash. Jiang Tian smiled faintly. Bitch, I'm going to kill you. Yin Peng was stunned for a long time before he got up. He roared and rushed toward Shen Mange like a bulldozer. Trash. I've already shown you mercy. How dare you? You're courting death. Shen Mange's face was cold. She raised her eyebrows and unleashed the peak level of internal force. She pointed at Yin Peng and her internal force exploded. Bang! Yin Peng was knocked to the ground. He spat out blood and couldn't get up for a long time. Shen Mange's finger hit the air. Her posture was elegant and graceful, like an antelope hanging its horn without a trace. However, her strength was tyrannical. Unexpectedly, she beat Wang Yunpeng, a soldier in the army who had cultivated to the level of iron body, until he couldn't stand up. How is that possible? Such a delicate girl actually defeated Yunpeng. All the tycoons and celebrities were shocked. She is a martial artist and has already reached the internal force level. Since when did such a young female martial arts master appear in Linzhou? Not only them, even a few martial arts masters who were hiding in the crowd couldn't believe what they had seen. Such a young girl had reached the level of internal force and could be considered a martial arts master. It was like a legend. How can his subordinates be so powerful? Wei Jieqiong was dumbfounded and couldn't believe it. Humph. What's the point? Beating up Yin Peng will incur the wrath of the public. Wei Jiehui sneered and shook his head. He had just entered the government and hadn't reached the core of the government yet. Most of the people he interacted with were ordinary people. He didn't know that Shen Mange could dominate half of Yangcheng with just one finger. This kid has nothing to do with the Wei family. We don't care even if you beat him to death. Wei Yang's eyes were filled with panic as he tried to explain. Kid, fight me if you dare. Soon, Yin Peng got up from the ground with a hand over his chest. His eyes were fierce as he approached Jiang Tian. Haha, do you think a piece of trash like you is worthy of my attention? Even my servant girl is no match for you. Get lost. Jiang Tian's face was calm. He tucked Zhao Xueqing's hair behind her ear and said calmly, I don't want to bully you. There is only one person in Jiangnan that is worthy of my attention. Under everyone's murderous glare, Jiang Tian took a sip of champagne and smacked his lips. In less than 3 days, all the trash here will rush to me and beg to be my lackeys. I am just here to see who is qualified. He ignored everyone's angry glare and said calmly, Everyone please do your best. Hearing those words, the crowd's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. Jiang Tian's words had cursed all of the people present. In terms of being domineering and arrogant, among all the hedonistic young masters and magnates present, who could be better than him? Chapter 125. What a lunatic. What is this place? How dare he talk so big? Seeing Shen Mange's power, the members of the Wei family thought that Jiang Tian was powerful. However, after hearing what Jiang Tian said, they suddenly realized that Jiang Tian was too arrogant. Only one person in Jiangnan province is worthy of your attention? You mean Li Zhenwei of Foshan? A tycoon asked curiously. Who does he think he is? He doesn't even deserve to be my disciple. Jiang Tian cracked a smile and shook his head. Is that Grandmaster Mo Haoxiong? Bai Choufei's eyes flashed coldly as he asked. He was also an iron body cultivator and had studied under Grandmaster Mo before. He knew how powerful Grandmaster Mo was. Him? Not good enough. Jiang Tian shook his head again. Then who are you talking about? Qin Xuanlei of the 8 trigrams Wandering Dragon Palm, or Li Juyang of the Sky River Tai Chi? Everyone asked curiously. Idiot. Jiang Tian cracked a smile. Even Mo Haoxiong couldn't do it. These pieces of trash haven't even reached the transcendent state yet. I am talking about Wei Shuofeng of the Wei family. He might be the only one in Jiangnan province who can last 3 minutes against me. Who's Wei Shuofeng? When the crowd heard this, some rich and famous people who didn't know the inside story were puzzled. Old immortal Wei can only last 3 minutes against you. That's crazy. That's crazy. However, the insiders' eyes almost popped out of their sockets and their faces turned red. They looked at Jiang Tian as if he were an idiot. Iron Ming Huang even shouted. You are so rude. Do you know who Grandmaster Mo is? He has reached the initial success of the transcendent state, and is the guardian of the entire Lingnan province. Old immortal Wei is a godlike figure, a once-in-a-century ethereal immortal master. He might reach the Tao body level in the future, and become a real immortal. How dare you look down on them? Jiang Tian shook his head in disappointment. That Grandmaster Mo is only at the initial success of the transcendent state. I thought he was an old grandmaster who had reached the transcendent state. Has he lived for so many years in vain? Old immortal Wei? You guys are really ignorant. You really know how to flatter him. What bullshit immortal? Do you know what a real immortal looks like? In my opinion, he's just a mad dog. I'll hit him twice and he'll be obedient. How dare you insult Mo Haoxiong? He's crazy. Everyone was dumbfounded when they heard this. Their faces were filled with horror. Wei Shuofeng was low-key and mysterious. Ordinary tycoons wouldn't have the chance to meet him, but who didn't know Mo Haoxiong's name? Seeing that he has a good follower, I thought that he had some ability. Who knew that he was just a boastful lunatic? Bai Choufei sneered, the anger in his eyes turning into contempt. He wasn't even willing to pay attention to Jiang Tian. Tai Ming monarch had a bad temper. He walked up to Jiang Tian and scolded. So what if you are a lunatic? It was as if he had a better brain. How dare you disrespect old immortal Wei and Grandmaster Mo? and humiliate the heroes of Jiangnan. I will kill you all. Exterminate all of them? You sure talk big. Jiang Tian sipped his champagne in satisfaction and smacked his lips. He said in a relaxed manner, as if it was a matter of course. You are just a piece of trash from the Tai family. How dare you put gold on your face like this? How dare you threaten me? You are quite brave. I'll grant you your wish. Mange, slap him. Yes. Shen Mange didn't say anything else. Her face turned cold. She strode forward and slapped Tai Ming Monarch. Blood spurted out of his nose and 3 of his molars flew out. Tai Ming Monarch was a rich young master in Lingnan. He was many times more powerful than Lu Fan, but his ending was the same. He was still slapped to the ground by Shen Mange. Everyone at the scene was speechless. They were all shocked by Jiang Tian. Yangcheng was the bridgehead of the reform and opening up. It was a prosperous place where there were many arrogant young masters. However, they had never seen or heard of someone as arrogant as Jiang Tian. He didn't even care about the famous Tai clan, and even dared to beat up Tai Ming Huang. Either he was a top young master, or he was a madman who couldn't be reasoned with. How dare you? This is the banquet of bliss. Is this a place where you can behave atrociously? Bai Choufei was angered to the point where he was about to go crazy. His sharp brows furrowed tightly, and then he shouted, "Left and right, seize him for me." A dozen bodyguards in black suits approached Shen Mange. Their waists were bulging. Apparently, they were stuffed with hard weapons. Some of them were even masters at the peak of the iron body stage. With so many people attacking at the same time, even if Shen Mange had inner strength, she still had to think twice. Humph! Is there only one arrogant and ignorant person in Linzhou? Right at this moment, a cold voice sounded. Everyone turned back and saw a handsome young man walking out of Tide Hark Villa 12 with his hands behind his back. Ji Wangsun, Wei Shuofeng's favorite disciple, Ji Zhuofan's second brother. Everyone's eyes were filled with fanaticism. Who knew how many cried out? Ji Wangsun wore a white gown, black-rimmed glasses and soft cloth shoes. This was originally a slightly old-fashioned outfit, but when he put it on, he gave off a suave feeling, as if he was a noble young master who had walked out of a water village in the Republic of China. Even old immortal Wei's disciple is here. This is going to be fun. A rich man shook his head. I heard Ji Wangsun is an expert in magic, especially in illusions and hypnosis. Old immortal Wei appreciates him. Some even looked at Jiang Tian as if he was a dead man, shaking their heads in disdain and taking pleasure in his misfortune. When they saw him coming over, everyone present dispersed like the tide, and consciously opened up a path for him. Young Master Ji is here. Even Tai Ming Emperor and Bai Choufei's expressions changed greatly, both of them bowing respectfully with cupped fists, extremely humble. Ji clan's wealth, power and background couldn't compare to the 4 great clans. But Ji Zhuo and Ji Fan's talents were enough to become Wei Shuofeng's disciples. This was something they couldn't compare to, especially when Ji Wangsun passed the induction period and entered the Tao. He could use magic to change one's fate, seeking fortune and avoiding disaster. He was an honored guest of many nobles, and had a chance of inheriting Wei Shuofeng's legacy. With Ji Wangsun's demeanor, no matter where he went, he would stand out like a crane among chickens. Ji Wangsun clasped his hands behind his back and sauntered into the crowd. He had the air of a transcendent being. Even if he didn't wear any jewelry, he still made many rich men bow their heads in submission and respect. The ladies' hearts swayed as they looked at him with admiration. Arrogant lunatic, you think you can do whatever you want because you have Jiang Bei behind you? He stared at Jiang Tian and said slowly, "Don't worry, Jiang Tian, I'm not going to give you a chance to escape. In this banquet there are crouching tigers and hidden dragons, geniuses and heroes gathered. You have some cultivation, but you are nothing more than a firefly, not worth mentioning. Crouching tigers and hidden dragons, geniuses and heroes gathered here. You sure know how to flatter yourselves." Even with Ji Wangsun's Dao Qi suppressing him, Jiang Tian was still calm. His lips curled in disdain. "I wonder if I should say something?" "What?" Ji Wangsun asked on reflex. "Everyone here is trash." Jiang Tian's face was calm as he sipped his champagne, his eyes full of contempt. "What? So arrogant? Jiang Tian's mouth was too poisonous, cursing all the major powers in Jiangnan. Everyone was so angry they almost fainted. Ignoring everyone's angry glances, Jiang Tian shook his head and said, "You are nothing. You are not even qualified to be my mounts. Geniuses? In my eyes you are just idiots. Even if you are a once-in-a-century genius, you will have to bow down in front of me, Jiang Tian." Who gave him the confidence to be so arrogant? A rich man mumbled to himself. I think he is relying on Zhao Xueqing. What kind of man is he to rely on a woman to protect him? Another socialite said sourly. But doesn't he know that the Zhao family is nothing compared to these major families? Someone asked in confusion. Lunatic. Someone even shook his head in disdain and said, he's actually a lunatic. Don't you know that his brain is damaged after drinking too much? I am relying on my wife. Bite me if you dare. When Jiang Tian heard this, he was greatly amused. He wanted to satisfy his wife's vanity, so he hugged Zhao Xueqing's arm and hid behind her back. He acted like a spoiled child and said, "My dear wife, look, quickly protect me. Look at how fierce they are. They want to bully me. Aya, you have offended so many people, and you are still in the mood to joke." Zhao Xueqing was amused by Jiang Tian's words. She twisted his ear and said, "Hurry up and clean up my mess. Since you are already so crazy and stupid, then don't come out and embarrass yourself anymore. Just be a vegetable for the rest of your life, and lie at home for the rest of your life." After being continuously humiliated by Jiang Tian, Ji Wangsuan's eyes turned cold. He stomped his right foot on the ground, and with a muffled sound, the ground started to shake violently. Yellow earth qi rose up and gushed towards his fingertips. Ji Wangsun made a sign with his right hand and chanted. Primordial yang comes from the heavens and forms from the earth. Man is the father of the heavens and the mother of the earth. This is the art of creation. The great river absorbs the qi. The trickle of water is not affected by the wind. His eyes were full of contempt, but his face was red. He didn't show any mercy. After all, his brother Jiju's soul was destroyed by Jiang Tian. According to his speculations, according to Taoist teachings, Jiang Tian might have fallen seriously ill, and this was a tribulation. Instead, he obtained natural luck, and should have already sensed or entered the Tao. Earth Emperor 6 Ren's art, soul slaying. Ji Wangsun growled in his mind as he pointed his finger at Jiang Tian's head. Immediately, the torrential earth qi was controlled by him, and turned into a mental attack, directly attacking the depths of Jiang Tian's mind. You have the nerve to embarrass yourself with such a trashy magical art? At this moment, everyone felt that something was amiss, and their eyes were filled with fear. However, Jiang Tian was calm as he continued to sip on his champagne and smiled. Qing'er Qianru, let me show you guys a trick that is not suitable for children. Just as the mental attack was about to enter Jiang Tian's mind, he raised his eyebrows and with a loud boom, a surge of divine sense transformed into a sharp sword and pierced into the depths of Ji Wangsuan's mind. Ji Wangsun only felt a sharp pain in his head, and the soul slash immediately dissipated. What made him even more panicked was that his stomach suddenly rumbled, and a surge of defecation crazily attacked him. It was the kind that could not be held back at all. Chapter 126. Fuck, what's going on? Ji Wangsun clenched his fists, his eyes widened, and his body was drenched in sweat. He turned around and ran back to the villa. However, he suddenly realized that the short distance of a few hundred meters seemed to stretch on forever. He could not help but complain and defend the dignity of an adult. I can't take it anymore. Ji Wangsuan's tears gushed out of his eyes. His voice was laced with tears. Suddenly, a dense forest appeared in front of him. He gritted his teeth and growled. Victory is right in front of you, you can hold it in. After a mad dash, he finally arrived. The crowd was already far behind him. Just like the feeling of helplessness during the last set of a workout, Ji Wangsun could only think of one thing in his head. Even if it's the King of Heaven, I'll show you. The sphincter finally ran out of ADP stored in the cells. No one could stop the urge of the excrement in the rectum to breathe fresh air. Finally, the dam burst, and the excrement rushed out. Thank goodness no one saw me. He rushed into the dimly lit woods, pulled open his trousers, and grumbled to himself with relief. This feels good. Ji Wangsun heaved a sigh of contentment. He did not bring any toilet paper with him, so he could only use his hands to wipe it off. Suddenly, the noise around him grew louder and louder until it became a cacophony of noises. The scenery in front of him became clearer and clearer. Like the opening of a stage, the lights gradually lit up. Has Ji Wangsun lost his mind? Why is he defecating in public? Fuck, he's using his hands to wipe it off. Disgusting. Everyone exclaimed in disbelief. I thought he was a master. Who would have thought he's so shameless? There were even young women who turned their heads away in embarrassment. Their eyes were filled with disgust and disgust. Shocking. Young Master Ji Wangsun of Yangcheng is defecating in public. Is this human nature or moral decay? Breaking news. Young Master Ji Wangsun defecated in public. Superstar Guiji vomited 3 times. There was no shortage of reporters in a place like this. There were already reporters who had turned on their cameras and cameras. They snapped away madly, chattering away as they gave their news headlines. Yes, in everyone's eyes, after Ji Wangsun inexplicably stomped his feet, he began to run around in circles like a headless fly, running back and forth like a madman. Then he pulled down his pants and pulled them up as if there was no one around. I actually dared to. In an instant, Ji Wangsun's eyes widened, and his face turned red, white, green, and purple. It was like a monitor with a faulty graphics card. He was so embarrassed that if there was a piece of tofu in front of him right now, he would smash his head against it without hesitation. If there was a crack in the ground now, he would jump in without hesitation, even if it was the 18th level of hell below. He wanted to cry but had no tears. His illustrious reputation had been destroyed in a single day. Perhaps this matter would spread throughout Yangcheng, Lingnan, and even Wuxia by tomorrow. It might even spread to the other side of the ocean. What's more, it's the kind with pictures and video evidence. Jiang Tianyu, what kind of magic did you use? Zhao Xueqing's face was completely red. She was too embarrassed to look at Ji Wangsun's ugly appearance. She only used her fists to beat Jiang Tian's chest and said coquettishly, "You're too bad, too immoral. What you did, do you want him to live? Will he commit suicide by hanging? Or will he just smash his head against the wall?" Zhao Qianru's face was full of sympathy. Is it fun? Jiang Tian hugged his beloved wife's waist and said with a chuckle, "I'm dying of laughter. It's fun, it's so funny." Zhao Xueqing was overjoyed, but in the next moment, she said with a straight face, "It's just a bit vulgar." Hubby was originally a vulgar person, but with the influence of my wife, I will also become an elegant person, Jiang Tian said with a chuckle. What are you doing? Still taking pictures, you want to die. A few of the third-rate young masters quickly came to their senses and snatched the reporters' cameras. They verbally threatened the reporters to delete the photos and videos. A few other young masters surrounded Ji Wangsun with clothes and umbrellas, so that it would be easier for him to change his clothes and avoid exposing himself. Jiang Tian, you've gone too far, I will not let you off the hook. Ji Wangsun's body trembled and his face was contorted. He pointed at Jiang Tian and shouted angrily. He glared at Jiang Tian with hatred and resentment. There were even a few drops of tears in his eyes. He looked like a pretty girl from a poor family who had been humiliated by a young master. It was a sad and moving scene. Hee, you're still far from it. Ask your master to come here. Jiang Tian laughed. But your sorcery is so bad, I don't have much hope for your master. You're trash. Your master is trash too. Jiang Tian's words shocked another group of people. Good, just you wait. Ji Wangsun had already realized that he had fallen for Jiang Tian's sorcery. Moreover, Jiang Tian's sorcery was so vivid and lifelike that it could pass off as real. It was definitely not something he could compare with. Besides, even if his sorcery was stronger than Jiang Tian's, he had already been humiliated like that. He had lost his drive and his Dao heart was in chaos. How could he still fight against Jiang Tian? Under the escort of a few young masters, he left the crowd with a gloomy face and rushed into the villa. Bai Choufei and Tai Minghuang also vaguely realized that Jiang Tian should have something to rely on. Otherwise, Ji Wangsun wouldn't have fallen for his trick. Although they hated Jiang Tian to the bone, they didn't dare to act rashly. Bai Choufei's hatred overflowed to the heavens, his pair of long and narrow eyes extremely sinister. He suddenly sneered, raising his hand to point at Jiang Tian and saying, "Jiang Tian, you dare hit people at the Banquet of Bliss, then take a trip to the police station." As he spoke, he fished out his phone and dialed a number. Hearing that, Tai Minghuang covered his swollen face and sneered. "Jiang Tian, no matter how arrogant you are, how dare you go against the state's violence department in public? Just wait for your death." The Banquet of Bliss had a large number of police officers. After receiving the call, a dozen police officers arrived in less than 3 minutes. The police officer in the lead looked like the deputy director of the Yang City Police Department. He was in his 40s, tall and strong, and had a square face. He said in a deep voice, "I am Shen Gang, the deputy director of the Municipal Public Security Bureau. Mr. Jiang, you are suspected of intentional assault. Please come with us and cooperate with the investigation." Hee, this arrogant brat is done for. Yeah. A small family from Linzhou City dares to behave atrociously at the Banquet of Bliss. When they saw this, everyone looked at Jiang Tian with disdain and ridiculed him while taking pleasure in his misfortune. The few young masters that Jiang Tian had offended all had powerful backgrounds. They had deep connections in politics. If they worked together, they would be able to stir up a storm and topple a city hall-level official. A mere Jiang Tian. Wouldn't he be toyed to death by them? "Kid, do you know how powerful we are now? Just surrender obediently. If you dare to resist, you'll be resisting arrest. Your crime will be even more serious." Tai Minghuang, Bai Choufei, and the other young masters were confident of their victory. They looked at Jiang Tian with disdain, and said arrogantly, "Humph, Jiang Tian, so what if you are popular in Jiangbei? Unfortunately, this is Yang City." Zhou Xinyao looked at Jiang Tian with disdain, as if she was looking at a dead man. Daring to resist so many young masters in Yang City, he can be considered capable. Unfortunately, he failed at the last step. He is far from enough. Since ancient times, people have never fought with officials. Yang City is the political center of Lingnan. Which young master here doesn't know a few city hall officials? Wei Jieqiong, Wei Jiehui, and the others felt as if they were sitting on a roller coaster. They had been shocked by Jiang Tian's strength before, but now, they looked at Jiang Tian with disdain, thinking that Jiang Tian would lose without a doubt. Yes, Jiang Tian dares to fight in Jiangnan. He has no one in his eyes. Send him to prison. Wei Jieqiong sneered and shouted. Jiang Tian had offended the Ji, Tai, Bailu and other great families. Behind them stood the Colossus Tang family. Chapter 127. This was Shen Mange, a descendant of the Shen family. Back then, she was one of the top socialites in Yanjing, high above like an empress. However, this unprepossessing young man in front of him was actually his master. Then what was his identity? A young master who came out of the Red Wall to gain experience? This wasn't enough. Even if he was a third-generation descendant of the Red Wall, he could only be considered as a couple with Shen Mange. For a moment, Shen Gang's mind was boiling. No matter how hard he racked his brains, he still couldn't figure out Jiang Tian's identity. Chief Shen, can I leave now? Jiang Tian's expression was calm as he smiled faintly. Of course. Mr. Jiang, do you want me to escort you? Shen Gang ignored the warning looks of Bai Choufei and the others. He nodded and bowed towards Jiang Tian with a flattering expression. Bai Choufei and the others naturally had good identities, but compared to Shen Mange, they were far too inferior. They weren't even fit to carry her shoes. There's no need. Jiang Tian refused Shen Gang's good intentions. He lazily stretched out his arm and said with a smile, Mange, your performance today is not bad. I'll allow you to work side by side with me. For a moment, everyone was stunned. This young woman who could suppress Chief Shen Gang wanted to work side by side with him, but she still needed his permission. However, what happened next made everyone even more petrified. Shen Mange actually smiled sweetly and obediently grabbed Jiang Tian's arm. She lowered her head and looked at him submissively like a maid. Under the resentful, shocked, and confused gazes of the rich and famous young masters and daughters, Jiang Tian drank the champagne in his cup in one gulp. Under the escort of Zhao Xueqing and the others, he swaggered out of the venue. When he walked to the side of Bai Choufei and the others, Jiang Tian said with a smile full of mockery, "I've slapped your faces, so what can you do to me? I've already said that you're nothing but trash. However, since you're going to be my lackeys in the future, it wouldn't be good if I hurt you and affect your ability to bite others. I'll let you off for now." After saying that, he floated away. These words angered Tai Ming monarch, Bai Choufei, and the others so much that they almost spat out 3 liters of blood, their bodies trembling uncontrollably. But he couldn't beat Jiang Tian, and the police didn't arrest him. He could only watch helplessly as Jiang Tian slowly led the crowd away. Sensing that something was amiss, Bai Chou and Tai Ming Huang dragged Shin Gang to a villa and asked with knitted brows, "What's going on, Chief Shin? If we let them go just like that, where will we put our faces?" Shin Gang smiled helplessly and said, "If you want to catch them, go catch them yourselves. I don't dare to catch them." He shook his head and said, "That Madame Mange standing behind Jiang Tian is a descendant of the Shen family in Beijing. A direct descendant." "What? He's a descendant of the Shen family in Beijing? Then why does Shen Mange want to be his follower? That shouldn't be." Everyone was shocked and couldn't believe what they heard. They couldn't afford to offend such a powerful family. Even if they worked together, they still wouldn't be able to defeat him. They're probably a couple who came here to roleplay. How can we guess the power of such a powerful family? Shin Gang smiled helplessly and didn't bother to talk to them anymore. Damn it, relying on a woman and living off her. What kind of man is that? Tai Ming monarch's eyes were ferocious. He gritted his teeth, wishing he could tear Jiang Tian into pieces. Are we just going to let him do whatever he wants in Yangcheng? No, we have to deal with him. Bai Choufei also said with a gloomy face. The news of Jiang Tian causing a ruckus at the Banquet of Bliss and trampling on a few young masters in Yangcheng spread like a hurricane. Everyone in the upper-class society of Yangcheng knew about it, and Wei Jinghu also heard about it. Late at night, Wei Jinghu's villa was still brightly lit. Many senior members of the Wei family had gathered, and even Wei Fong was called over from Linzhou City. Wei Jinghu was furious and said coldly, "How can such a rude and brainless guy be in charge of the Zhao Pharmaceutical Company? Wei Fong, what are you thinking?" "Dad, Jiang Tian is called Master Kong in Linzhou City, and even the Tang family respects him. I saw it with my own eyes," Wei Fong said. What a joke, what a joke. How could a lunatic become some bullshit Grandmaster Jiang? Wei Tianhe sneered and said, "Sister, do you know what he has done this time? Not only did he beat up young Master Lu and Yunpeng, he also beat up Tai Ming Monarch and Bai Choufei. He has offended the Tang family and the other major families." "What? Jiang Tian has done this?" Wei Fong's face also changed and she felt uneasy. Although she had seen the heroes of Jiangbei respect Jiang Tian, she had never seen Jiang Tian display his power. She didn't know what Master Kang's name meant, and whether he could withstand so many giants. "Isn't that right?" Wei Tianduan scolded. "Jiehui, didn't you all go together? Why didn't you stop him? Weren't there police and security guards? A bunch of trash. Why did you let him cause trouble?" Wei Jiehui lowered his head in shame. He had brought Jiang Tian with him to wait for Jiang Tian to be trampled by Tang Xiaozi. Who would have thought that Jiang Tian would be able to suppress them? Wei Jieqiong couldn't listen anymore. "Uncle, we didn't expect this either. Jiang Tian is too violent. It was just a quarrel, but Jiang Tian immediately gave the order to attack. We didn't have time to stop him." "Okay, stop quarreling." Wei Jinghu had already made a decision. He said coldly, "Wei Fong, listen to me. Now, cut off all ties with Jiang Tian and his wife, and take back the company's shares. We don't want to be implicated and implicate the Wei family." "Dad, no," Wei Fong said firmly. "Jiang Tian is not an ordinary person. Zhao's pharmaceutical company will rely on him in the future." "Are you trying to anger me to death?" Wei Jinghu originally didn't like his daughter who had married Zhao Huqing. Now that she didn't listen to his advice, he couldn't help but be furious. He slammed the table and said, "If you don't cut off all ties with him, then we will cut off all ties. You don't want to be my daughter anymore. You married a trash, and now Zhao Xueqing married a scourge. What future do you think your bloodline has? As long as you don't kill us, we still have a future. First aunt and the others echoed in disdain. Wei Fong was still a little hesitant at first, but when she heard this, her grievance and anger were aroused. She stood up and said, I know that you have never thought highly of me, and I have never thought of relying on the Wei family. So what if we cut off all ties? She walked away and sneered. How do you know the ability of my son-in-law? Sooner or later, you will need to rely on my son-in-law. Seeing her walk out with her head held high, everyone was stunned and couldn't believe it. Jiang Tian was a lunatic, and Wei Fong had also become a lunatic. Damn, they were a bunch of lunatics. How dare you? How dare you? Wei Jinghu stood up and slammed the table. He shouted angrily, Tian Duan, contact Lingnan Daily immediately and publish an advertisement. Our Wei family has cut off all ties with the Zhao family. Jiang Tian's life and death have nothing to do with us. The next day, the news of lunatic Jiang causing a ruckus spread further. This shocking news was spread all over Lingnan, north and south of the Pearl River. Lu Fan was slapped in the face and had a concussion. Yin Peng's ribs were hit by Shen Mange and 3 of his ribs were broken. He was out of danger. Ji Wang, son of the Ji family, was humiliated by Jiang Tian, and by Chou Fei and Tai Ming Huang were also slapped in the face. The entire Lingnan was paying attention to this news. On one side was the mysterious Jiang Tian, who seemed to have the support of a force in Yanjin. On the other side were the Tang family, the Ji family, the Bai family, the Tai family, the Du family and the LV family. This dispute involved too many people, especially since Ji Wang's son was the disciple of Wei Shuofeng. However, most people still thought that Jiang Tian was doomed. If these families worked together, they would be able to turn the world upside down. Even if Jiang Tian had the support of a powerful family in Yanjin, he might not be able to resist them. On this day, the announcement of Wei Jinghu and Wei Fong severing ties was spread all over Yangcheng, especially when Jiang Tian's name was mentioned in the advertisement. They said that Jiang Tian was cruel and disrespectful. Wei Jinghu knows everything about Jiang Tian, but he doesn't think that Jiang Tian will win. This means that Jiang Tian doesn't have the power to resist the attacks of these families. Someone with a discerning eye commented. Meanwhile, in the intensive care unit of the First People's Hospital in Yangcheng, Lu Zhen, one of the top 20 tycoons in Yangcheng, stood in front of the bed and looked at his son with a pale face. Around him were the members of the Lu family. Lu Fan's mother and Zhou Xinyao were crying. Honey, the doctor said that he's in a vegetative state, due to a severe concussion. He can only lie in bed for the rest of his life. Lu Fan's mother lamented. He's too ruthless. That Jiang bastard is inhumane. Lu Zhen gnashed his teeth. I will have my revenge. I will make him pay with his blood. Uncle Lu Fan did it for me. This happened because of me. I won't stand by and do nothing. Tang Xiaozi bowed with a pained and apologetic face. Lu Zhen was in a high position. Despite the pain in his heart, he still maintained his etiquette and helped Tang Xiaozi up. Xiaozi, don't blame yourself. It's all Jiang Tian's fault for being so arrogant. He even attacked during the blissful banquet. He's insane. Tang Xiaozi's eyes flashed. That Jiang Tian seems to have some skill. He even injured brother Jizhua. Now that Elder Wei has come out of seclusion and is holding a banquet, I will personally ask him to kill him. Yeah, this time, even old immortal Wei is going to come out of seclusion. Hearing this, a hint of joy appeared on Lu Zhen's face. Old immortal Wei was Jiangnan's guardian. If he made a move, wouldn't he be able to crush Jiang Tian with a wave of his hand? And not just me, but the Tai, Bai, and Ji clans will also ask Elder Wei to take care of Jiang Tian. Tang Xiaozi took pleasure in Lu Zhen's misfortune. In fact, Tang Xiaozi didn't expect Jiang Tian to have the guts to go against Jiangnan's heroes, and was caught off guard. But after learning the details, he was happy to see Lu Zhen's misfortune. Jiang Tian angered everyone, and they all came together to attack him. That was for the best. It wouldn't make him seem narrow-minded. Good. I will also have my old subordinates from the Pharmacy Bureau investigate Zhao Pharmacy. Lu Fan's grandfather Lu Gongho, who had been silent all this time, spoke. This time, I will make that Jiang Tian die without a grave. I will avenge my poor grandson. In the depths of his eyes, a cold light flashed like that of a vicious wolf, as if he was about to devour someone. Chapter 128. After leaving the ward, Tang Xiaozi sneered. Jiang Tian, oh Jiang Tian, I don't need to do anything this time. The rich and powerful clans in Yangcheng will tear you to pieces. He turned his head to look at his follower and asked, Oh right, where is Yun Peng? What's the situation? He's been transferred to the Military General Hospital. He's still mumbling things like, Tang family Grand Guest Elder, and Martial Arts Grandmaster. He said he's going back to the Feral Tiger base first. The attendant was baffled. Oh, let him be. Maybe he has an urgent mission. Tang Xiaozi didn't take it to heart. His attention was mainly on the government and the Wei clan. They were enough to deal with Jiang Tian. But Jiang Tian, who was in the eye of the storm, was calmer than anyone else. He was playing the zither with his wife, reading the golden scriptures, tasting fragrant tea, smelling sandalwood, and accompanying the green plum blossoms. Hubby, why can you play such beautiful music with the white ape-bone zither but I can't? On the table by the window, Zhao Xueqing stroked the tough strings of the white ape-bone zither. But the sharp pain in her fingers made her unable to make even the slightest sound. But she had once seen Jiang Tian play this bone zither with her own eyes. The sound was pleasant to the ear, sometimes like the gurgling clear spring flowing over the stones in the pine forest, sometimes like the golden spears and armored horses, a solemn atmosphere. She even saw that after Jiang Tian plucked the strings of the zither, chi weapons burst out and smashed the boulders into pieces. Qinger, you can only play this zither after you cultivate. Jiang Tian put down a book of the yellow court scripture, and looked at her lovingly as he smiled faintly. Cultivation is too boring, isn't it? I've seen you meditate for days without eating, drinking, sleeping, or resting. Zhao Xueqing appeared to be in a difficult position. She shook her head and said coquettishly, It's more suitable for me to be a small businessman. All right. Jiang Tian flipped open the scroll and sipped his tea. He smiled leisurely and said, I just want you to be carefree and carefree, always as simple and pure as a 16-year-old girl. Jiang Tian didn't care whether Qing'er cultivated or not. Cultivation had its advantages and disadvantages. The advantage was naturally that she could become a powerhouse, even immortal and immortal. The disadvantage was that once she stepped on the path of cultivation, it would be a thorny land, a bloody road, and there would be no lack of competition and killing. Jiang Tian had returned after 10,000 years of cultivation. His state of mind was already different from that of ordinary people. In his opinion, as long as he was happy and stable without having to wander around, even a short life was more meaningful than immortality. A day passed quickly. At 1 a.m, Tang Xiaozi arrived at a grand manor on Tidehark Mountain. The manor was located at the top of the Tidehark Mountain, and overlooking the Victoria Harbor across the sea. It had great feng shui. The banquet of bliss was held here in a low-key manner. Walking into the extravagantly decorated hall, Tang Xiaozi saw that Tai Ming Huang, Bai Choufei, and other first-rate young masters of Sheep City were all gathered here. The young talents of the younger generation could be said to be gathered together, the seats filled with distinguished friends. Not only them, even the Tai clan head, Bai clan head, and other powerful figures of the older generation were all present. These wealthy families were all worth more than 10 billion. In addition, there were many high-ranking government officials, and even a vice-chairman of the Chinese Political Consultative Conference. Other than that, there were also many famous cultivators of the southern faction, such as Hong Yi the Immortal, Su Wenjie, Tao Fengshe, and so on. Some of these people were proficient in searching for dragons and exploring caves, some were proficient in reading faces, some were proficient in geomancy, some were proficient in counting plum blossoms. Each of them had their own accomplishments, and had unfathomable abilities. They were the distinguished guests of high officials and nobles, and their status was revered. However, they had all been taught by Wei Shuofeng and were very grateful to Old Man Wei. Today, they also came to the banquet to wish Old Man Wei a long life. Leaning against the northern wall, on a high platform, an old man dressed in a white robe sat upright on it with an air of immortality. He was about 70 years old, but his face was ruddy, his hair was white, and his complexion was ruddy. His entire body exuded a faint pressure that could even suppress the martial Dao master Mo Haoxiong. There was a pile of gifts behind him, including expensive antiques, jewelry, mansion keys, bank cards and checks. The total value was at least a few $100 million. Tang Xiaozi didn't want to show off his status in this place. After bowing to Old Man Wei, he sat down next to Tai Minghuang. Minghuang, what is Old Man Wei talking about? Tang Xiaozi asked. The Jiangbei Alliance. Tai Minghuang's face became serious. He said in a low voice, Master Kong has gathered all the heroes together. They are discussing this matter now. Meanwhile, the family head of the Bai family was speaking. According to the secret information I got, the Master Kong killed Xing Shanhu on Yi Gufeng's boat and saved the Jiangbei Alliance. That's why he got everyone's support. The family head of the Tai family pulled a long face and said in a deep voice, This alliance is no small matter. Even the Tang family, who had always stayed out of the affairs of the Jianghu, has joined the alliance. They have invited Master Kong to be their guest of honor. Even the Tang family is under his control. How powerful is he? Tang Xiaozi was moved by the revelation. Mo Haoxiong heaved a sigh and said, I heard that Master Kong had killed the tycoon of Hubei province, Hong Tianzhao. I'm afraid he has already reached the phenomenal state. There is a grandmaster in Jiangbei. Hong Tianzhao is one of the top 20 grandmasters in the world. If this Master Kong is so powerful, we will be in trouble. A martial Dao grandmaster is a dragon among men. Who can stop him from sweeping through Jiangnan? Everyone's face paled after hearing the news. Hong Tianzhao was even more powerful than Mo Haoxiong. If this Master Kong could conquer Jiangbei, Mo Haoxiong wouldn't be able to stop him. Many tycoons said anxiously. Old Immortal Wei, I'm afraid that the next step of the alliance would be to attack Jiangbei. You have to come up with a plan. Over the years, the north and the south of the Pearl River had been at odds with each other. Even Tang Xiaozi had fought with Yi Gufeng in the past. With Wei Shuofeng as their backer, they had been able to expand their business into Jiangbei. Although they had made some gains, they had also become enemies with the other powers in Jiangbei. If Jiangbei was allowed to grow, they would probably lead their troops to the south and swallow up the territory of Jiangnan. They would then carry out bloody revenge on everyone present. Is this Master Kong really that scary? Tang Xiaozi's face was pale as a sheet. That was the power of a grandmaster. For decades, the tycoons of Jiangbei had never been afraid of the three cities of Jiangbei. They had always treated the three cities like dogs. However, due to the appearance of Master Jiang in Jiangbei, the situation was reversed in an instant. Everyone became anxious. Tai Minghuang broke out in a cold sweat. Xiaozi, my father said that this feast of bliss is to discuss how to deal with Master Kang's rise and the establishment of the Jiangbei alliance. Everyone was in a state of panic. Only Wei Shuofeng remained calm, as if he hadn't heard anything. Beneath Wei Shuofeng's seat, a delicate and pretty youth stood up, swept his gaze over the crowd, and lightly said, Don't panic, everyone. In fact, my grandfather already knew of Jiangbei's movements. A cold glint flashed across his eyes as he said indifferently, Furthermore, they've already begun their operation. What did you say, Daoist Wei? The Wei clan has already made a move? Everyone was overjoyed when they heard this and looked at each other in disbelief. He was Wei Shuofeng's grandson Wei Peng. His talent was monstrous, and he was in the early stage of the profound understanding stage. He was proficient in magical arts, physiognomy, geomancy, and astrology. In Jiangbei, he was known as Daoist Wei. Ji Zhua and Ji Fan were his juniors, but they were far from his level in magical arts. He was the head of Yang City's 4 great young masters, able to suppress Tang Xiaozi, Bai Choufei and Tai Minghuang. My grandfather's foresight is divine. He saw the changes in heaven and earth, a dragon rising from Jiangbei. Wei Peng's eyes were cold as he snorted. Since that's the case, we naturally have to take advantage of the fact that this dragon is still young and kill it in the bud. That's right. Old immortals should be like this, striking first to gain the upper hand. The clan heads and rich men sighed. The feast of bliss is about to begin. My Wei clan has invited Master Kong to join us. Wei Peng was like a little Zhuge Liang who held the pearl of wisdom in his hands. And tonight, the Wei clan's 28 Dao initiation and profound understanding disciples will move out, crossing the Pearl River and pointing their swords at Jiang Bei. Their targets are Yi Gufeng, Xuemingyi, Zheng Guangxia, Dragon Fifth, Zhou Zhenghao, Lu Zikuan, and Zhao Huqing. Wonderful! Wonderful! The crowd applauded and cheered. The Bai family's lord said, "No matter how powerful that Master Kong is, I don't think he has the ability to split himself into two, right? With such a multi-pronged approach, the Wei clan will definitely be able to wipe out all the heroes of Jiang Bei in one fell swoop." "Lord Bai, I think you are wrong." Wei Peng sneered and said, "That Master Kong of Jiang Bei is really here. He is in Yang City right now. It's not that he can't split himself into two. It's that he is too far away." "He really dares to come? Isn't he afraid of being killed by old immortal Wei?" "That's right. Compared to our old immortal Wei, he's just trash." Everyone said in disdain. "Hee, it's better that he is here." Someone slapped his thigh and laughed maniacally. "What Jiang Bei heroes? Without Grandmaster Zhang's protection, they're nothing but ants. They're nothing but shit. Old immortal Wei is so wise. So wise. After this operation, Jiang Bei will be ours. This time, old immortal Wei has finally unified the Lingnan region. He has achieved immortality." Everyone cupped their fists and bowed to Wei Shuofeng, praising him like a tide. Wei Shuofeng sat on the stage like a block of wood. His eyes were emotionless as if none of this had anything to do with him. However, the crowd was not surprised and continued to flatter him. Wei Shuofeng had always been an eccentric person. He was a man of few words and had asked his grandson, Wei Peng, to do the honors for him. Wei Peng took out an antique pocket watch and looked at it. He smiled and said, "Looking at the time, they should have arrived at Jiang Bei by now. Let's wait for the good news. If we can take down Jiang Bei, I want to buy Yi Gufeng's shipping company. Lord Tang, why don't we work together and take down Zheng Guangxia's real estate company?" Now that victory was in their hands, everyone was at ease. They began to whisper to each other, discussing how to divide up the territory of Jiang Bei. Chapter 129. At this moment, Tang Xiaozi finally had the chance to interrupt. He stood up, cupped his hands respectfully, and asked the question in his heart. "Spiritual Master Wei, I naturally understand why old immortal Wei's disciples attacked Yi Gufeng and the others. But why did he make a move on Zhao Huqing, an unknown third-rate tycoon?" Wei Peng smiled faintly. "Because Master Kang's father-in-law is Zhao Huqing. Capture him. Won't that Jiang guy surrender without a fight?" "What? Jiang Tian is Master Kong? Isn't he a lunatic? He's a martial arts grandmaster? How is that possible?" Tang Xiaozi by Chou Fei, Tai Ming Huang, and the other young masters suddenly understood. Their faces changed dramatically, and cold sweat poured out crazily. "So he's Master Kong from Jiang Bei. Is that why he's so arrogant? He dominated Jiang Bei alone, and even Yi Gufeng and the others submitted to him. How can we compare to him? If he attacked us in a fit of anger, I'm afraid we would have been killed on the spot." Tang Xiaozi by Chou Fei and Tai Ming Huang's faces turned pale. They were so frightened that they couldn't help but tremble. It was as if they thought they were stepping on an ant, but when they looked closely, they found that it was a giant beast that opened its bloody mouth and swallowed everything. How could they not be frightened? Yes, it's him, Jiang Tian, nicknamed Tai Chu. However, he deliberately kept a low profile and only used the name Jiang Tian in the mortal world. Wei Peng's expression didn't change. "Don't panic. I was secretly observing the conflict between you and him. The reason why I didn't intervene was because I wanted to see how strong he was. Fortunately, you were there. He's a martial arts grandmaster." Tang Xiaozi and the others said with lingering fear. "So what?" Tai Ming Huang suddenly slapped his thigh and smiled proudly. "We have old immortal Wei here. How would he dare to attack us? He would be scared to death." "Humph, his spells should have entered the Tao." Wei Peng snorted. "If I wanted to take his life, it would be easy. It's just that there were too many people, and the media present. If he died suddenly, it would be very bad for your banquet. At this time, Tang Xiaozi suddenly stood up and bowed with cupped fists. Spiritual Master Wei Xiao, this Tang has a presumptuous request. Speak. Wei was a man of few words. Don't kill Zhao Huqing and Zhao Xueqing. I've always wanted to. Tang Xiaozi smiled bitterly. Wei Peng laughed and said, I understand. Young Master Tang is really a romantic person. You still have feelings for her. Don't you worry, after tonight you'll be home. Spiritual Master Wei to fulfill Tatu. Tang Xiaozi was greatly moved. He bowed again and cupped his fists. In the future, Xiaozi will definitely repay you generously. Sure. Wei Peng smiled faintly. Congratulations, Xiaozi. Although Zhao Xueqing is married, she's not bad to be young Master Tang's canary. Yes, I've seen that girl from afar. She is indeed beautiful, as expected of the flower of Linzhou. Everyone congratulated Tang Xiaozi. Haha, this is the power of Jiangnan province. Snatching their territory and sleeping with their women. Awesome. Tai Ming Huang raised his glass of red wine and drank to his heart's content. It was as if the face slapped by Jiang Tian didn't hurt so much anymore. Thank you, everyone, for your generosity. Zhao Xueqing's beautiful figure appeared in Tang Xiaozi's mind. He almost drooled. He was so enthralled that his soul almost flew out of his body. He secretly made up his mind that after tonight, no matter what, he must obtain Zhao Xueqing. Whether by force or coercion, he must obtain her. Unfortunately, the Wei family has already made their move on Jiang Bei. I'm afraid Jiang Tian doesn't have the time to attend the banquet. If he dares to attend the banquet, I will chop him into pieces. Bai Choufei said angrily. Yeah, I'm afraid he's going to put out the fire. With old Godwei here, how would he dare to come to the banquet? Many rich people shook their heads and sighed. They were very disappointed. Who says I don't dare to come? Suddenly, a sound wave swept over like rolling thunder, shaking the huge villa. As if a hurricane had been set off, cups and plates flew everywhere. The rich landscape painting on the wall was torn apart. Moreover, the owner of this voice came very quickly. The word, who sounded as if it was still several kilometers away. It was faint and fleeting, but when the word come was uttered, it sounded as if it was right next to everyone's ears. It was like a huge bell ringing in everyone's ears, causing their blood to boil. It seemed that the person had already arrived at the door. He's here. Everyone looked at each other in shock. With a loud bang, the door of the villa was blasted open, and pieces of fine steel flew out. The door, which was made by a top German protection company and could withstand machine gun fire, was smashed into pieces by a punch as if it were made of paper. Who is it? Amidst the exclamations, a white-robed young man walked in with his hands behind his back. Dust billowed around him. The young man was wearing a white t-shirt and white casual pants. His temperament was ordinary, his height was ordinary, and his appearance was also ordinary. However, his eyes were deep, dark, cold, as if he were a demon king looking down at everyone. Jiang Tian, Master Kong of Jiang Bei. Everyone exclaimed and didn't know what to do. Their faces were full of panic and fear. That day, they had finally seen Jiang Tian's terrifying strength. Just by breaking the steel door with his body, they could see how terrifying his strength was. He was worthy of being called a grandmaster. Boss, please go to the second floor. The bodyguards of these rich young masters all pulled out their pistols and pointed them at Jiang Tian. They protected their masters behind them and were on full alert. My grandpa is here. What do I have to be afraid of? Wei Peng grunted and stared at Jiang Tian with cold eyes. He said coldly, Jiang Tian, I didn't expect you to come. Why wouldn't I dare to come? This place is going to be my backyard in the future. Jiang Tian's face was calm and collected. Even though the dust was flying in the air, his white outfit didn't get stained by the dust. That night everyone praised Jiang Tian as if he was a demon. However, some people didn't believe it. Go to hell, asshole. Lu Tianlong used to be the soldier king of a special force in Wuxia. He had been through hundreds of battles, and didn't believe that there was such a powerful martial artist in the world. Seeing that Jiang Tian wasn't going to stop, He pulled the trigger and fired 8 bullets at Jiang Tian's vitals. You really don't know what's good for you. Why don't you go home and cook some pot? Jiang Tian shook his head in disappointment and disdain. He flicked his fingers as if he were playing a pipa. Suddenly, the high-speed bullet actually bounced back. Its speed was no less than the speed at which it left the barrel, bringing out a strange whistling sound. Then a few popping sounds were heard. Lu Tianlong and the 8 gunmen fell to the ground. Their foreheads were bleeding profusely. This. All the tycoons present were dumbfounded, and at a loss of what to do. They had heard of the power of martial artists, but this was the first time they had seen it with their own eyes. Even guns couldn't kill a martial artist. Perfected cultivator way, this. Everyone panicked and retreated behind Wei Peng. They curled up into a ball and looked at him for help. Under normal circumstances, Wei Shuofeng wouldn't be willing to help. How many times had experts come to invade? How many times had they been in danger? It was always Wei Xiaoxiao who raised his hand to suppress them, saving everyone from the fire and water. Kong Teichu, if you surrender now and beg for your life, I will spare your life. Wei Peng stepped forward and narrowed his eyes. You can project true qi outside your body, which makes you a martial arts grandmaster. You can work for the Wei family. Ha ha ha. You want me to work for the Wei family? You should be my dog. Jiang Tian closed in on Wei Peng. He sneered and said, Cut the crap. Let's fight. Let's see how trashy your family's dharma spells are. Jiang Tian, don't be so arrogant. Let me see what you can do. Mo Haoxiong shouted from the side. His hair and beard stood on end as he threw a punch at Jiang Tian. Even if you can kill Hong Tianzhao, so what? I have been hiding my true power for years. I have reached the phenomenal success stage. Today, I will kill you and establish myself as the most powerful martial artist in Lingnan province. Mo Haoxiong was pleased with himself. He threw a punch at Chen Fan, and the chi fist formed into a colorful tiger claw. Although the claw was faint, it was so real that it left a trail of white chi in its wake. It was aimed at Jiang Tian's chest. Ha! Phenomenal success stage? Phenomenal success stage? Like I said, in the vast Lingnan, there must be a true grandmaster. Jiang Tian was excited. It was the first time he had seen the qi condensation spell. It was much more powerful than Hong Tianzhao's qi condensation weapon. But in fact, he hadn't condensed a complete tiger and didn't have spirituality, so his attack power was slightly reduced. Jiang Tian might have been cautious in the past, but now that he had mastered the demonic flame qi weapon, he had nothing to be afraid of. However, you are still a piece of trash in my eyes, Jiang Tian said arrogantly. He waved his fingers and the demonic flame qi weapon was formed. Whoosh! Thud! The demonic flame qi weapon was about 10 feet long. Blue flames curled around it, swallowing and spitting unsteadily. Suddenly, an extremely hot feeling appeared in the air, and like mercury flowing down the ground, it slashed towards the tiger claw. What? You have formed the 5 elements. Have you reached the peak of the transcendent state? Mo Haoxiong was dumbfounded. He couldn't believe it. It was 10 times harder to form and control the 5 elements than to form the qi condensation spell. It could only be formed at the peak of the transcendent state. However, the 5 elements Jiang Tian had formed were the real demonic flame, which was much more powerful than the normal flame. How could he not be afraid? Under his shocked gaze, the demonic flame qi sword shattered the tiger claw as if it was tofu. Then the demonic flame qi sword swept in all directions like a raging fire. The 3 members of the Wei family and the top tycoon were burned into charcoal before they could even scream. The 3 dead people were still in shock and fear. Their mouths were wide open, but they had turned gray as if they had been turned into statues by magic. A second later, the wind blew gently, and the 3 completely carbonized corpses instantly disintegrated into fine powder. Kong Teichu, I believe you have the ability to kill Hong Tianzhao. Mo Haoxiong slid more than 10 meters away. He said in a deep voice, Unfortunately, you met me. Today, I will kill you. Haha, I will kill you as if you are a dog. Again. Jiang Tian laughed, raised his right hand and swung it down. A long flaming blade suddenly appeared 1 meter above Mo Haoxiong's head and slashed down like a mountain. Chapter 130. Primeval Vajra Shield, block for me. Jiang Tian's move was so sudden and tricky that Mo Haoxiong didn't even have time to dodge. He gritted his teeth and stomped his foot. Boom. His face turned red, and his feet sank deep into the marble floor. Hundreds of thousands of pores on his body spurted out Jin Qi, forming a golden Jin Qi shield above his head. My primeval Vajra shield can't even be broken by a bomb. Mo Haoxiong snorted proudly. This is the legendary cultivation of Qi into Qi aura. The crowd exclaimed in astonishment. Even Wei Peng looked at him with admiration. Even Wei Shuofeng was slightly moved. At this level of cultivation, he was comparable to a spell master who had entered the Dao. Trash! You can't even withstand a single blow. Jiang Tian's face was full of contempt as he continued to press down with his right hand. The demonic flame saber cut through the primeval Vajra shield, as if it was cutting grass. A thin line of blood appeared from Mo Haoxiong's forehead to his crotch. In the next second, he burst into flames and turned into ashes. If it weren't for the mess of the marble floor and the flames, everyone would have thought that he had never been there. The entire place was deathly silent. Everyone stared at that tall and imposing figure in disbelief. Lingnan's only grandmaster, Mo Haoxiong, was so easily defeated by Jiang Tian? Oh my god, that's too scary. He's a demon. He must be a demon, not a human. He's definitely a demon. Everyone was terrified and terrified. Their legs trembled, and cold sweat poured down their bodies. Their faces were as pale as paper. They were all tycoons and had seen dead people before. Some had even killed people with their own hands. They were extremely cruel and merciless. However, this was the first time they had seen such a cruel and ruthless way of killing someone. Mo Haoxiong had completely disappeared from the world. Everyone looked at Wei Shuofeng in panic, hoping that he would intervene. Even Wei Shuofeng was slightly moved. His sharp eyes flashed as he said softly, "A dual cultivator of magic and martial arts. How rare." His voice was hoarse and dry, as if he had not spoken for many years. However, he still had no intention of making a move. Wei Peng pointed at Jiang Tian and bellowed, "Kong Teichu, stop. Do you know that the heroes of Jiangbei are under my control?" Hearing this, everyone's hearts finally calmed down a little. That's right, old Immortal Wei's army is already pressing down on the border and controlling all the heroes of Jiangbei. Jiang Tian will definitely have to hold back. He shameless boasting. Do you think those useless people can hurt my people? Jiang Tian paced with his hands behind his back, and his expression was calm and unhurried as he said with disdain, "Those fellow disciples of yours are all dead." What? You're lying. Wei Peng couldn't believe it. The people he sent out were all experts who had stepped into the Dao. Once they cast their spells, they were unpredictable and killed people as if they were cutting grass. Even a dozen special forces soldiers couldn't stop them. At this moment, a man covered in blood stumbled into the room and cried out in horror and pain, "I'm sorry, but I'm sorry. Master, senior brother, the operation failed. The enemy was wearing a Dharma artifact made by Master Kong. The other disciples were all killed." As soon as he finished speaking, blood flowed out of his eyes, nose, mouth, and mouth. He slowly fell to the ground, his eyes wide open. He died with a grievance. In fact, his internal organs had already been ruptured by the backlash of the Dharma Qi. He was already at the end of his rope when he rushed to the Wei family to report the news. The spacious hall was dead silent. Even the sound of a pin dropping could be heard. Everyone's jaw dropped as they stared at Jiang Tian in fear, as if they were looking at a demon god. He wasn't even there, but he had killed a dozen of the Wei family's disciples with a Dharma artifact. How powerful was that? This kind of Dharma Qi was like that of a deity. It was terrifying. Even the junior perfected cultivator of the Wei family, Wei Peng, was not as powerful as him. In fact, Wei Peng had also sensed how terrifying Jiang Tian was. His face paled as he slowly backed away. "Wei Shuofeng, do you dare to fight with me now?" Jiang Tian didn't even look at Wei Peng. Instead, he looked at Wei Shuofeng with disdain and asked in a low voice. Everyone felt suffocated and found it difficult to breathe. Their faces became extremely pale. Jiang Tian was as powerful as a dragon and had defeated the Wei family. Now he wanted to challenge Wei Shuofeng. the #1 spellcaster in Lingnan. Master Kong, Elder Immortal Wei, Elder Mo, please wait for a moment. At that moment, a few figures in military uniforms walked in quickly. The leader was the Tang family's master, Tang Guozhu. He looked around and asked in surprise, "Where is Elder Mo Haoxiong?" No one dared to speak. They all looked at Jiang Tian with fear. Jiang Tian said calmly, "I've already killed him." His tone was casual as if he had just killed a chicken. "Sigh, I'm still one step too late." Tang Guozhu stomped his feet and looked regretful. Then he pulled himself together and looked at Jiang Tian and Wei Shuofeng. He smiled bitterly and said, "Master Kong, Elder Immortal Wei, the head of the military asked me to pass on a message. He hopes that all of you can shake hands and make peace." Jiang Tian frowned and pretended to be angry. "The Wei family hurt my brothers in Jiangbei first. I must avenge them." In fact, the Jiangbei elites were not hurt at all. On the contrary, the Wei family had suffered heavy losses. However, Jiang Tian had to defeat Wei Shuofeng and obtain the Xianhuang clay pot to set up the 5 elements gathering array. He had already killed his way to the Wei family. How could he give up now? Wouldn't that be like entering a treasure mountain and returning empty-handed? If you want to shake hands and make peace, that's fine too. Wei Shuofeng will hand over the Xianhuang clay pot and all his family assets. You're crazy. That's the family heirloom of the Wei family. How can a lowly scum like you covet it? Wei Peng was so angry that his face turned red. Now that the military had come, he had more support. He pointed at Jiang Tian and cursed. "Shut up." Jiang Tian raised his hand and slapped Wei Peng across the face. He didn't make any gestures, nor did he recite any spells. He simply slapped Wei Peng as if he was swatting a fly. However, Wei Peng felt the yuan qi of heaven and earth become restless. It was as if Mount Buzhou was collapsing on him. He felt as if his bones were about to shatter. Wei Peng's eyes turned cold. His hands flew up and down like butterflies. He made a series of hand gestures and stomped his right foot on the ground. He shouted, "Mountain-carrying shield." The Southern Sex finger art, palm and finger array. The Wei family had combined the feng shui secret arts of various families, including the 9 palace flying stars, shocking dragon point, and the 8 trigrams and 6 directions. He made hand gestures with his palm and finger to communicate with the yuan qi of heaven and earth to form a deadly defense. If a formation expert was present, they would see the yuan qi of heaven and earth surging and converging to form a thick shield. There were even runes engraved on it to protect Wei Peng's body. This shield was the Wei family's secret art of self-protection. It was said to be as thick as a city wall, and could withstand the pressure of a mountain when cultivated to the peak. Although Wei Peng hadn't cultivated it to the peak, he was still somewhat proficient in it. It could even withstand a bomb blast. However, the mountain-carrying shield shattered like a piece of paper in the face of Jiang Tian's mighty force. Then the violent force crashed into Wei Peng's body like raging waves crashing against the shore. Wei Peng was sent flying like a scarecrow in a hurricane. He slammed into the wall with a bang and slowly fell to the ground with blood flowing out of his 7 orifices. At this time his internal organs were bleeding. If it wasn't for the mountain-carrying shield blocking 70% of the force, he would have been turned into a pile of meat paste. Wei Xiaozhenren couldn't even block a casual palm strike from Master Kong. Everyone turned pale with fright and stumbled backward. They stood against the wall like children who had made a mistake. They kept quiet out of fear, and didn't even dare to breathe loudly. They all lowered their arrogant heads and looked down, not even daring to look Jiang Tian in the eye. This was a clash between 2 of Lingnan's strongest experts. Even the military had come out to mediate, so they didn't have the right to interrupt. They only hoped that they wouldn't anger Jiang Tian and bring disaster to the fish in the moat. They wanted to leave the banquet intact. Children shouldn't interrupt when adults are talking. You're too immature. What did your grandfather teach you? Jiang Tian didn't even look at Wei Peng, who was lying on the ground in fear, and muttered like an old man. Then he glanced at Wei Shuofeng on the high platform and said calmly, "Elder Wei, experts are lonely. In today's age of chaos, spiritual energy is scarce. It's hard to find experts in magic and martial arts. At our level, it's rare for us to meet an opponent who is on par with us. Why don't we spar? Oh. Wei Shuofeng looked at Jiang Tian and smiled. Today, let's have a bet. If I win, I will take your family's property and the Xianhuang clay pot. Jiang Tian clasped his hands behind his back and said lightly, if I lose, Jiang Bei and my incomplete soul-gathering array will belong to you. Fair enough. Fair, very fair. This old man agrees to this bet. Wei Shuofeng looked at Jiang Tian carefully for the first time and nodded. Good. Elder Tang and everyone here will have to bear witness. Jiang Tian said with a faint smile. Everyone was shocked. They were so excited that they couldn't even speak. This was a huge bet. Hundreds of billions of dollars were involved, and the whole of Lingnan was involved. Only Tang Guozhu took a deep breath and nodded. The government won't interfere in a battle of spells, but the witness is still acceptable. I have observed the night sky and noticed that a dragon had risen in Jiangbei. I didn't expect you to be so powerful. Wei Shuofeng's face suddenly darkened. His eyes suddenly lit up and shot out a bolt of lightning. Zap! The bolt of lightning shot towards Jiang Tian's mind. Jiang Tian's eyes narrowed. A strand of divine sense shot out from his forehead, heading straight for the lightning. Crack! The two bolts of lightning clashed violently in the air. Sparks flew in all directions and then disappeared. Divine sense can interfere with reality. So powerful. Many spellcasters exclaimed. They felt a sharp pain in their heads and couldn't even stand properly. Even Tang Guozhu widened his eyes in disbelief. Wei Shuofeng, you are the first one to reach such a level after I rose to power. Jiang Tian's face changed slightly and sighed. You are also very powerful. Wei Shuofeng's face was serious. He heaved a long sigh and said, I have read in the ancient books that the perfected cultivators of ancient times had soul energy that was 10 times more powerful than modern spells. Now that I have seen it, it is indeed so. He stood up and suddenly shot out like a missile. In the blink of an eye, he had landed on the sea a few hundred meters away. At this time, the rain was pouring. Lightning flashed in the depths of the clouds like silver snakes. The sea was stirred up by the strong wind. He stood on the rolling waves like an immortal, motionless like a sea-stabilizing needle. A voice came from afar to the villa. The ancient powerhouses were happy to climb to the peak and practice their martial arts. Why don't this old man and you fight on these great waves? Only then can we show the bearing and artistic conception of a great cultivator of our generation. Chapter 131. As you wish. Jiang Tian snorted and shot out like an arrow, landing on the surface of the sea. Wei Shuofeng's spell had reached the pinnacle of the ethereal enlightenment, and was only one step away from attaining the Taoist aptitude. Jiang Tian had dominated the universe and massacred countless planets. Naturally, he knew that he had to kill every last one of them. If the Jiangnan heroes were loyal to him, the talented ones could stay, but Wei Shuofeng had to die. Jiang Taichu, you're only in your 20s, but you've already stepped into the Grandmaster realm. You've also reached the advanced level of sorcery. Wei Shuofeng stood at the head of the tide, unaffected by the wind. His hair and beard fluttered in the wind, making him look like an immortal. Back then, he was as talented as you. He was invincible in Wuxia and all the overlords submitted to him. He might even reach the immortal state in the future, and form a Taoist body. If you were given another 10 years, you would be as strong as a dragon with amazing talent. Unfortunately, you have met me now. You mean Yi Zhantian? Jiang Tian was disdainful. His Zhenyuan surged, and his white robe was not stained by a single drop of water. He sneered. I really don't know why you guys are worshipping such an ordinary person like a god. He is merely an ant and a speck of dust. One day, I will definitely cut him down like a grass dog. You arrogant bastard. Wei Shuofeng's face showed anger for the first time. Very well, I will show you that there is always someone better than you out there. He raised his hand and the chi of heaven and earth surged. The giant wave under his feet rose more than 10 meters into the air, and formed a 10-meter-wide whirlpool. In the distance, a few yachts shook violently and almost capsized. After the giant wave rose into the air, under the control of his surging spiritual energy, It turned into a water dragon that was 10 meters long. It was vivid and crystal clear. It raised its head and swung its tail as it roared angrily. Its voice was like rolling thunder as it smashed towards Jiang Tian. So powerful. I'm afraid that even Jiang Taichu wouldn't be able to withstand this formation. Old Immortal Way is indeed Old Immortal Way. This technique is too powerful. It's like a true immortal. With Old Immortal Way in charge, Jiangnan will be safe. When the people in the villa saw this scene, all of them stared with their eyes wide open. They couldn't believe it, and then they were full of confidence and excitement. They were celebrating with each other, as if Jiang Tian was dead. I didn't expect you to be so proficient in almost all arts. Not only can you control earth energy, but you can also control water energy. Jiang Tian sighed and waved his fingers. Qi, a demonic flame saber, as thin as a cicada's wing but extremely condensed and sharp, slashed toward the water dragon. His Qi Dao was so condensed that it appeared green. It was comparable to the green lotus leaf fire. It slashed at the water dragon's neck from an unbelievable angle. Rumble. The water dragon exploded, and the sound reverberated for more than 10 miles. Raindrops hung upside down, and raging waves surged. Pillars of water as thick as buckets shot straight into the sky. A terrifying shockwave swept out in all directions like a tornado, causing many cruise ships to violently shake. At this moment, the beach where the blissful banquet was located was mostly destroyed by the seawater and the fierce wind. The villas on Tidehark Mountain were all lit up. Many people were awakened by the commotion. Is this the power of arts and martial arts? The hall of the Wei family's villa was a mess. All the windows were shattered, and glass shards flew in all directions. This caused many spectators to cut open their bodies. They all prostrated themselves on the ground, trembling and crying out miserably. On the roof of the Golden Sea building, the tallest building in Yangcheng City, the rain was pouring and the wind was howling. The blades of a Valiant Dragon military helicopter spun slightly due to the strong wind. Bean-sized raindrops hit the fuselage, making popping sounds. Behind the fence was a tall and resolute old general in military attire. He was wearing a military raincoat, and was gazing at the sea through high-powered binoculars with a solemn expression. At this moment, there were 7 or 8 mighty generals standing behind him. They were all high-ranking generals of the 3 major military forces in Wuxia. But at this moment, their backs were as straight as a primary school student, and their faces were full of reverence and respect. If there were any military fans who were familiar with the high-ranking military officials of Wuxia here, they would definitely recognize the old man and exclaim in awe. It was Cao Shixiang, the vice chief of the military commission. He was the one who discovered Yi Zhantian years ago and facilitated the establishment of the Huaxialong formation. No matter who it is, it will be a great loss to the cultivation world of Wuxia. Cao Shixiang put down the binoculars. A trace of regret flashed across his face. Alas, Yi Zhantian has been in seclusion for 10 years. The world of martial arts is going to be in chaos. Grandpa, I wonder if Mr. Tang can mediate? Beside him, a tall woman in camouflage clothing held an umbrella for the old man, and said with a frown. Suddenly, there was an explosion on the surface of the sea. The girl in camouflage clothes was shocked and said, "Could it be that they're fighting?" "Jianjia, I think so. Grandmasters are like dragons and immortals are like gods. I'm afraid Tang Guizhu's reputation is not enough." Cao Shixiang shook his head and sighed. He picked up the binoculars and frowned. Not bad. Seeing Jiang Tian slash apart the water dragon, Wei Shuofeng's body trembled, and he took a step back. His expression was stern as he praised. In the next moment he formed hand seals with both hands and flicked his fingers repeatedly, as if he was playing a pipa. In the end he swept out and shouted loudly, "Kid, have a taste of the might of my 1,000 snow piles." Chi, chi. Streaks of sharp water swords condensed in the air, forming a line. There were a total of 3,100 swords, densely packed together like 1,000 piles of snow. These water swords were crystal clear like jade and looked very cute. They were like delicate works of art, but each one of them was infused with a surging power that could crack gold and stone and shatter the void. My 3,100 swords have the power to fight Yi Zhantian and kill grandmasters like grass. Can you take it? Wei Shuofeng smiled proudly and then raised his eyebrows. He waved his hands wildly and shouted, "Swords go!" The water swords tore apart the curtain of rain and dragged out streaks of white water. Like cruise missiles, they shot towards Jiang Tian. The water swords were agile. Some of them circled around Jiang Tian's feet, back, and head and attacked from all directions. Moreover, they were extremely fast, like lightning. The sound of the swords was so ear-piercing that it sounded like the wailing of thousands of ghosts. It was frightening. How is this possible? But what made Wei Shuofeng's heart skip a beat was, Jiang Tian actually dispelled all of his defenses and stood there fearlessly without dodging. But when the 3,100 swords were 3 meters away from Jiang Tian, they were all suspended in midair. Although they tried to spin, they seemed to have encountered an invisible barrier and could not move forward at all. What? Wei Shuofeng's eyes widened in shock. He staggered and almost fell into the sea. I told you not to mention you. Even Yi Zhantian is just an ant in front of me. Jiang Tian laughed, his eyes full of contempt. Wei Shuofeng was the most powerful spellmaster that Jiang Tian had met since his rebirth. Master Qi of Feng Shui, Yang Guochang of Mao Mountain, and even Zhuo Zimu of Shinnong paled in comparison. But the legacy of the spell world in Wuxia could not be compared to immortal cultivation. In the age of Dharma decline, the legacy was cut off and the techniques were incomplete. Wei Shuofeng's 3,100 swords were powerful, but in order to attack in all directions, he dispersed his mana. It was even weaker than Hong Tianzhao's limitless sword style. What did Jiang Tian have to fear? In the next moment, Jiang Tian stomped his right foot. Thump! The seawater caved in, and a 10-meter-wide footprint appeared. Around the footprint, the seawater surged and shot out like whistling arrows, shattering the 3,100 swords. Uft! Wei Shuofeng spat out a mouthful of blood. His body wobbled and his pale face contorted in pain. Old Wei, you can't do it. I'll kill you in 3 moves. Jiang Tian's face was calm. He smiled and said, "Hand over your precious Xianhuang clay urn first. Otherwise, my heart will ache if you break it." Hee Kong Teichu, you also know that I have this treasure. I specialize in earth-type spells. Wei Shuofeng didn't wipe the blood off his chin. His eyes were filled with killing intent as he smiled sinisterly. Then you shouldn't have come. Since you're here, I'll let you have a taste of the Xianhuang clay urn's power. In the next moment, he shook his arms and soared into the sky like an eagle. He cut through the curtain of rain and landed on the peak of Mt Tidehark. Great! I've been impatient for a long time. Jiang Tian sneered. He stepped on the water and followed closely behind. In the many seaside hotels near Mt Tidehark, many people who were attending the blissful banquet were awakened and came to the beach to watch. What just happened? Why did I hear an explosion? Zhou Xinya had drunk a lot last night and still had a headache. She looked around and frowned. What's going on? Why are there so many soldiers and police on guard? She saw that the entire villa district and the surroundings of Mt Tidehark had been cordoned off by the police. No less than 100 policemen and soldiers braved the wind and rain, standing guard with guns in hand. No one was allowed to go up the mountain or into the sea. Don't tell me they're shooting a movie? I think there was an explosion on the sea just now. A young master in the crowd said. The blissful banquet had a swimming pool, a racecourse, a golf course, and many other ancillary facilities. There were also many luxury cars, helicopters, and cruise ships. Recently, some movie directors had also come to borrow the venue to shoot a movie. Even if it's shooting a movie, 3 to 5 policemen would be enough. But there are special forces and soldiers. The formation is too big. A famous and experienced director in the entertainment circle said with a frown. Who's that? He looks like Jiang Tian. Zhou Xinya suddenly exclaimed while covering her mouth. They saw a figure leisurely walking toward Mt Tidehark. His footsteps were very slow, but each step covered a distance of over 10 meters. He's definitely shooting a movie. Seeing this, someone said with certainty. There's a suppressive aura hanging in a place we can't see. Maybe he's shooting a movie. How can a normal person cover 10 meters in a single step? Zhou Xinya smiled in relief and suppressed this crazy thought. She had never seen Jiang Tian's true strength, nor did she have any understanding of martial arts or magical arts. Moreover, she had a deep prejudice against Jiang Tian. Even now, Jiang Tian was nothing more than a swindler fishing for fame. Chapter 132. By the time Jiang Tian arrived at the foot of the mountain, Wei Shuofeng was already standing proudly on top of a giant boulder. He had fished out an antique jar, and was looking down at Jiang Tian with cold eyes. Wei Shuofeng caressed the clay jar as if he was caressing his lover. His eyes flashed with reluctance, regret, and endless determination. He let out a long sigh and said, "Old friend, thank you for accompanying me for so long." The next moment he tossed the jar into the air and stomped with his right foot. "I'll borrow the earth chi of Mount Tidehark." At this moment, on the roof of the Golden Sea building half a kilometer away, Chao Jianjia, who was watching the battle, suddenly put down her binoculars and exclaimed, "Grandpa, is this an earthquake?" Everyone felt the building tremble, as though a giant dragon had flipped over under the earth. They couldn't even stand steadily. "Not good. That old brat Wei Shuofeng has been forced into a corner. He's using that supreme artifact, the mysterious yellow earthen jar." Chao Shixiang's expression changed drastically. "What's that? How can it be so powerful?" The high-ranking generals present were astonished. Chao Shixiang was drenched in cold sweat. His sword-like brows were knitted together as he sighed. "That earthen jar is said to be used by the earthly sovereign, Fuxi. It's inscribed with ancient runes that can communicate with the aura of the earth veins." His eyes flickered with astonishment as he said in a trembling voice, "This artifact is extremely destructive. It can kill grandmasters like cutting grass." Everyone was shocked to see surging streams of mysterious yellow earthen chi within 5 kilometers of Wei Shuofeng. They were visible to the naked eye as they surged toward the peak of Mount Tidehark from all directions. The mysterious yellow earthen chi surged out from the rocks and ground around Wei Shuofeng. It was like streaks of rainbows that stretched across hundreds of meters and soared into the clouds. Streams of Xianhuang earth chi continued to form balls of yellow light on the surface of the clay jar. This time Kong Teichu is in danger. Chao Shixiang's eyes were filled with sorrow as he sighed. What a pity for such a talented young man. This earthen jar is inscribed with ancient runes that can communicate with the spiritual energy of the earth veins. My grandfather has been overseeing Mount Tidehark for decades, setting up formations and refining it every day. The clay jar has long since become one with the nearby mountains and rivers. Within the Tidehark villa, Wei Peng crawled up and wiped the blood from his lips. He gazed at the mountaintop and said, "Unfortunately, my grandfather is only an enlightened immortal and hasn't reached the Tao body realm. He can only activate the clay pot once." His eyes were slightly red, and his expression was complicated as he lamented. "Moreover, once there is a backlash of magic power, the pot may be destroyed and the person killed. I didn't expect Kong Teichu to be so powerful. He forced my master to throw away his life. If we can successfully kill Kong Teichu today, we will never forget old Mr. Wei's great kindness." Many of the rich and famous people present were shocked, and some were even moved to tears. They cupped their fists and bowed to Wei Shuofeng from afar, using the most respectful and grateful voice they had ever used in their lives. Rumble. In the blink of an eye, all of this happened in the span of a few breaths. Streaks of yellow earth vein energy had already formed a terrifying dragon over 10 meters long above the clay pot. That long dragon seemed to be real. It shone with brilliant yellow light, and its scales seemed to be made of gold. Roar. The earth vein energy dragon's eyes were wide open, its whiskers swaying, and its claws dancing in the air. Its mighty roar shook the heavens and earth, causing everyone's eardrums to ache. "Kong Teichu, let's see how you'll withstand 5 kilometers of earth vein energy." Wei Shuofeng's eyes were about to split open as he roared and made a hand seal. "I have a mouthful of Xianhuang qi that can suppress the sun, moon, and stars." Wei Shuofeng roared loudly as he stomped his feet into the ground, sinking several inches deep into the bluestone. His face was pale from the backlash of his magic power. Blood seeped out of the corner of his mouth, and dripped onto his chest like mournful plum blossoms. In an instant, under his control, the earthen chi dragon was like a collapsing mountain, like Mount Tai crashing down. With the force of a thunderbolt, it charged towards Jiang Tian. In the villa, all the celebrities and tycoons attending the banquet were dumbfounded when they saw this scene. This black-yellow earth chi, I'm afraid it can even crush a tank. It's not something a human can withstand. Bai Chofei said excitedly, gathering the earth vein energy with a wave of his hand, and forming a dragon with a wave of his hand. Old Man Wei's skill is not that of a mortal deity, but it's even better. Many rich and famous people saw this miracle and were moved to tears. Grandmaster Yi of Jiangbei Humph. Even if you are an immortal state warrior, you will die this time. Tang Xiao's eyes were cold as he gritted his teeth and snorted. Hee, so this is what Wei Shuofeng is capable of? Jiang Tian's hair fluttered in the wind as he snorted coldly. Suddenly, he stepped on the void as if he was walking on invisible stairs, and ascended to the sky. Kong Teichu took a step and rose 1 meter into the air. After 9 steps, he was 9 meters in the air. At this time, the giant dragon had swooped down and was very close. No matter how many spells you have, I will break them with 1 punch. Jiang Tian was fearless in the face of this. He rushed forward with an indomitable fist and shouted, I told you, you are just an ant. An ant should have the self-awareness of an ant. You should lie down on the ground and die silently. Boom. As he roared, Jiang Tian was enraged. He didn't use any celestial spells and directly used his body to resist. He heavily punched the earth vein dark yellow energy dragon. Bang. Waves of air rolled and shot out horizontally, engulfing the space within a radius of 20 meters. That vast expanse of sky was in chaos, and nothing could be seen clearly. Kill. Jiang Tian's eyes flickered with red demonic flames. His hair fluttered like an upside-down waterfall with the momentum of swallowing mountains and rivers. He broke through the magic with his physical body and fiercely punched the Xianhuang Qi dragon. Clang. A resounding sound like a yellow bell shook the sky and everyone's eardrums, shaking their fragile nerves. The people in the Tide Hark Villa were several hundred meters away, but they were still shaken to the core and almost vomited blood. Clang. Bang. Bang. Terrifying explosions rang out one after another. The Xianhuang Qi dragon coiled in the sky and roared loudly as it collided violently with Jiang Tian's fist and body. The air currents surged, and the space was torn into a blur by the aura fluctuations, seemingly in danger of being annihilated. Rumble. Finally, there was a loud explosion that sounded like several tons of explosives going off at the same time. Several yellow gas masses appeared and spread out continuously, forming ripples that spread out over 100 meters and did not disperse for a long time. The terrifying explosion spread several kilometers away. Even the people in the downtown area noticed the explosion and looked up toward the beach of Tide Hark Mountain. What's going on? Is there an explosion at Tide Hark Mountain? Don't tell me someone is mining the mountain. How is that possible? That's a scenic area, and the Tide Hark Villa district is also a wealthy district in Yangcheng. Perhaps Mazu's spirit has appeared. There was even a hurricane just now. Many citizens were shocked and at a loss as they discussed spiritedly. Today, Tide Hark Mountain could be said to have witnessed many strange phenomena. The eruption of a hurricane, the raising of monstrous waves, and the earth-shattering explosion caused many speculations among the citizens. Some nearby citizens wanted to drive over to watch, but they were stopped halfway by the police and asked to leave. However, the upper echelons of the Lingnan government and the military knew that an earth-shattering battle had taken place here. This battle was no small matter. It would decide the political, business, and underground power structure of Lingnan for the next few years. It could be said that this battle had decided the universe. Master has won. Wei Peng cheered after the sound and the airwaves had dissipated. Many Jiangnan tycoons also smiled in relief. Immortal Master Wei Shuofeng is too powerful. I'm afraid he can even kill an immortal state warrior. There are no more immortal state warriors in the world. No matter how strong Kong Teichu is, he's just immortal. How can he withstand the power of the earth veins? A spell master exclaimed. Humph. After we get rid of Master Kong, We can march north and occupy Jiangbei. Tang Xiaozi, Bai Choufei and the others were relieved and their worries turned into joy. However, they suddenly saw Wei Peng's expression change drastically as if he had seen a demon. He also turned around. In the courtyard of the villa, a tall and dignified figure slowly floated down from the white clouds with the mysterious yellow clay pot in his hand. He looked handsome and calm, but his eyes were flashing with frightening light. His handsome face was as perfect as God's work of art. His white robe was spotless and he looked like a deity. Who else could it be but Jiang Tian? In an instant, all the noise in the villa seemed to have been absorbed by an invisible giant sponge, leaving only a still picture. There was complete silence and even the sound of a pin dropping could be heard. Only the sound of waves and thunder could be heard in the distance. Everyone was dumbfounded and their eyes were filled with shock. They didn't even dare to breathe. The villa was dead silent, and they could even hear their own frantic heartbeats. Everyone was dumbfounded as they stared at the tall and handsome figure in disbelief. Wei Shuofeng had used the yellow clay pot and attracted the earth qi within 10 miles of Tide Listening Mountain. It could even kill an immortal state warrior. So shouldn't Jiang Tian be the one to die? Why did he come down the mountain? Kong Teichu, you're not dead. You even took the clay pot? Tang Xiaozi's legs trembled and beads of cold sweat appeared as he said in disbelief. Jiang Tian's methods were like that of an immortal. He could even suppress Wei Shuofeng. Tang Xiaozi was terrified and wanted to kneel on the ground and beg for mercy. Kong Teichu, where's my grandpa? Wei Peng stepped forward and asked angrily. Jiang Tian abruptly turned his head. His eyes flashed. A divine sense blade shot out from his forehead. Wei Peng fell to the ground with blood flowing out of his 7 orifices. He twitched violently for a while like a shocked rat before he breathed his last. Jiang Tian's divine sense had become stronger as his level increased. He was now at the 3rd level of qi refinement, and his divine sense had also become stronger. If his divine sense used to be a flying dagger, then it was now a bullet or even a cannon. Wei Peng's arts were only at the Dao initiation state. How could he withstand it for a while? When everyone saw this, they turned pale with fright and fear filled their hearts. Wei Xiaozhenren had received Wei Shuofeng's true teachings and was at the Dao initiation state. However, he was killed by Jiang Tian with a single glance. Didn't that mean that no one could withstand a single glance from him? Master Kong, we don't mean to be disrespectful. It's just that Elder Wei gave us some pointers, so we can't help but be concerned. Hongya secretly heaved a sigh of relief and bowed deeply. He said humbly, Master Kong, may I ask where Elder Wei is? I killed him with a single slap. Jiang Tian's tone was calm, as if killing Wei Shuofeng was nothing more than crushing an ant. Everyone present felt their hearts sink into an abyss. Their bodies were covered in cold sweat, and their eyes were filled with fear and doubt. Chapter 133. Wei Shuofeng was a spell master at the peak of the ethereal understanding realm. Moreover, he had used his ancestral treasure to summon the black-yellow earth qi and condense it into a dragon to suppress Jiang Tian. How could he have died? However, none of them dared to ask. A battle of magical powers was originally a matter of instant change. It was a matter of life and death, a mystery within a mystery. Since Jiang Tian had walked down alive, then the one to die would definitely be Wei Shuofeng. Little did they know that the black-yellow earthen jar was an ancient treasure used by the earthly sovereign Fuxi. It contained immense power, and could only be used by those who had reached the Dao body realm. Wei Shuofeng, who was at the peak of the ethereal understanding realm, had forced himself to use it and suffered a backlash. His organs and meridians had long since been shattered. By the time Jiang Tian had broken through the black-yellow earth qi dragon and arrived before him, he had easily killed him with a single slap. Old immortal Wei is dead. Hearing this, Su Wenjie, Tao Fengshe, and the others could no longer hold on. They all knelt on the ground and wailed. Although Wei Shuofeng was not their disciple, he had given them a lot of pointers, and they owed him a great deal. Upon hearing this, their minds went blank. They were like melons that had been separated from their seedlings. They had no one to rely on. Master Kong, please spare our lives. Suddenly, Patriarch Bai was the first to react. He bent his knees and knelt on the ground. He lowered his arrogant head and begged pitifully. We only came to the banquet of bliss to ask for a magical artifact. We have no ill intentions toward Master Kong. Although he tried his best to hold on, his trembling legs revealed the fear in his heart. We submit and serve Master Kong from now on. If you have any orders, we will obey without question. Fear seemed to be contagious, and all the patriarchs and experts scrambled to kneel on the ground, kowtowing and worshipping Jiang Tian. They were deeply afraid that they would be killed on the spot by Jiang Tian if they were to kneel a second later. Jiang Tian was too strong. Even Wei Shuofeng, who had taken out his ancestral treasure, was killed. If he wanted to take the lives of everyone present, it would be as easy as cutting grass. Moreover, killing people with spells was different from martial arts. Spells were ever-changing, unpredictable, and could kill people from 100 miles away. If Jiang Tian wanted to kill them, they wouldn't even know how they died. Who wouldn't be afraid? Actually, everyone felt the same way about Wei Shuofeng. While they respected him, they also felt fear and apprehension towards him. Although I, Kong Teichu, have killed countless people in my life, I still understand right and wrong. I will never kill the innocent. Jiang Tian casually picked up a glass of red wine and sipped it. He looked down at the crowd and said lightly, I killed my way into the Wei family to avenge the heroes of Jiangbei. I know that none of you participated in the Wei family's operation this time. It has nothing to do with you. Thank you, Master Kong, for not killing me. Everyone felt as if they'd been pardoned, and they kowtowed one after another to express their gratitude. However, they sighed sorrowfully in their hearts. From now on, there would be no more Wei family in Jiangnan. By then, Chao Shixiang had already arrived. He nodded slightly and didn't say anything else. After saying this, Jiang Tian's gaze swept across the southern faction's Feng Shui and Xianshu practitioners. Everyone's heart skipped a beat. They had all received favors from the Wei family, and were considered Wei Shuofeng's disciples. Was it not enough for Kong Teichu to wipe out the Wei family? Was he going to deal with the Wei family's henchmen? There were even a few brave ones who stealthily formed hand seals. Some wanted to fight to the death, some wanted to escape. Everyone, don't be nervous. Unexpectedly, Jiang Tian only smiled warmly and said, At this time, I came to Sheep City to collect some formation materials. If you have any, you can trade with me. You can ask for money or cultivation techniques. More than half of Jiangnan's spell masters had gathered in the hall. There were also practitioners from other provinces who had come to participate in the banquet of bliss. If Jiang Tian had said this before, the masters from all over the country would have scoffed. However, upon hearing those words, everyone felt as if they had hit the jackpot. Their faces lit up with joy, and they even felt like cheering. Jiang Tian was a dual cultivator who had killed Hong Tianjiao and Mo Haoxiong. Today he had killed Wei Shuofeng. His spells were definitely above the ethereal enlightenment state. They could imagine that Jiang Tian's spells, martial arts, and alchemy skills were unimaginably powerful. Could it be that Grandmaster Jiang is also proficient in the study of array formations? Suddenly Su Wenjie reacted and asked in shock. Arrays were the most difficult and profound of all. Arrays used the elements of mountains, rivers, water, and wood to connect with the power of heaven and earth to achieve various effects such as killing, amplification, healing, summoning, sealing, and so on. It was said that in ancient times, Jiang Zia had once comprehended the formation of 9 palaces and 8 trigrams, and the formation of 10 generations of wisdom kings. In the Battle of Mai, he had defeated 170,000 soldiers of King Zhou. However, arrays had been lost in Wuxia for many years. Only a few mountain guarding arrays still existed. Feng Shui Xian technique was actually a variant or branch of the formation. Feng Shui masters used compasses, Feng Shui Dharma artifacts, and the flow of water to set up all kinds of Dharma arrays to seek luck, avoid misfortune, adjust Feng Shui, gather spiritual qi, or attack enemies. Unfortunately, these were only small tricks. The real arrays were similar to the Yin and Yang dust array of the Mount Shu sword sect, and the cosmic star array at the back of the Kunlun mountain. These arrays? They could easily summon the power of the stars, space, and earth. Even a grandmaster would be crushed, and an immortal state warrior would have to retreat. Who wouldn't want to master such a vast power? How could they not be excited when they heard that Jiang Tian knew about arrays? What's so special about arrays? If you have materials that satisfy me, I can teach you a thing or two. What do you think? Jiang Tian smacked his lips and said with a smile. The knowledge of array formations was a top-notch secret art for Wuxia warlocks. It was something they could only look at but could not attain. However, in the cultivation world, it was only the most basic knowledge. From the spirit gathering array and reverse killing array to the mountain protection array, and Dao field array to the starry sky array, it could be said that Jiang Tian knew at least 8,000 array formations. It would be a piece of cake for him to teach them a little. No matter how powerful their arrays were, they were not as powerful as the mountain guarding array of the Shinong school. Jiang Tian could break it with a few kicks. Besides, Jiang Tian needed some free technicians to set up the spirit gathering array. It would be a good idea to bring them along. Master Kang's breadth of mind is admirable. Grandmaster. This is the temperament of a true grandmaster. The crowd was utterly astonished, and was filled with gratitude. Even immortal Hongya, who had the highest cultivation, looked at Jiang Tian with reverence. Jiang Tian nodded and suddenly looked at Tang Xiaozi in the crowd. Master Tang, I heard that my wife owes you tens of millions of dollars. Please give me your account number, and I will transfer the money to you. He won't let me go after all. Looking at Jiang Tian's half-smile, Tang Xiaozi felt as if a basin of cold water had been poured over him. He felt cold from head to toe and a chill ran down his spine. He was really scared at this moment. He had seen Jiang Tian's strength with his own eyes. Even old immortal Wei's Xianhuang Earth Chi Dragon was smashed by his fist. How terrifying was Jiang Tian? He was like a demon god. The current Jiang Tian, not to mention him, even his father, the Tang clan patriarch, and the entire Tang clan could be easily annihilated. However, Tang Xiaozi had recklessly coveted his wife. Wouldn't he be played to death by him? Thinking of this, Tang Xiaozi's legs almost turned into noodles. Unable to support himself any longer, he knelt on the ground and kowtowed like he was pounding garlic. He begged in a trembling voice, Grandmaster Jiang, those medicines are all miraculous elixirs. How can you refund them? Ah, so it's a miraculous pill? Jiang Tian put his hands behind his back and said jokingly, You only spent tens of millions. Is that enough? Elixirs are worth more than that? You bastards have lived too long. How dare you provoke Master Kong? You don't know what's good for you. Grandmaster Zhang's magic power is as high as the heavens. Killing you is as easy as slaughtering chickens and dogs. If it weren't for Grandmaster Zhang's kindness, you would have all died at the banquet of bliss. That's right. These foppish young masters are useless. Do they think they can do whatever they want just because they have some money? They even dare to offend Master Kong. They must be severely punished. Compensate them and break their legs as a warning to others. Unknowingly, the wind changed. Those southern sex spell masters, after learning that Jiang Tian was going to teach them spells, stood on Jiang Tian's side. They pointed at Bai Choufei and the other young masters and berated them. When Tang family's Tang Jinya heard this, he was so shocked that his expression changed drastically. It seemed that his son offending Master Kong was equivalent to offending a group of experts. Who could withstand this kind of power? He also knelt on the ground and said in a trembling voice, Master Kong, please forgive my son for having eyes but failing to see your face. I am willing to exchange half of Tang family's property for my son's life. He can be spared from death, but he can't be forgiven. Ghost kick, break his dog legs and teach him a lesson. Jiang Tian's expression was calm as he said with a faint smile, Yes, master. Ghost kick didn't hesitate. He stepped forward and kicked Tang Xiaozi's thigh twice. Crack, crack. The crisp sound of bones breaking rang out. Tang Xiaozi hugged his leg and howled miserably. He was in so much pain that he cried and rolled on the ground. On the side, Chao Shixiang and the military's upper echelons didn't change their expressions. It was as if everything was natural. This was the prestige of a martial arts grandmaster. The secular world didn't dare to offend them. Even the military didn't dare to do anything. Otherwise, the the world would be in chaos. Hearing those miserable screams, Tai Ming Huang, Bai Choufei and the other young masters felt their hair stand on end. They felt a chill down their spines and a sense of sorrow welled up in their hearts. Master Kong, please forgive us for having eyes but failing to see and offending you. We know our mistake. Master Kong, please be magnanimous and forgive us this time. We won't dare to do it again. That's right, Grandmaster Jiang. Just treat me as a fart and let me go. Master Kong, from now on, we are willing to follow Master Kong. If you have any orders, we will not hesitate. There was no need for Jiang Tian to speak. Many pale-faced young masters scrambled to kneel on the ground and kowtow like they were pounding garlic. They were so scared that their souls almost left their bodies. Their bodies were trembling like sieves. The more timid ones even had tears streaming down their faces and snot bubbles coming out of their noses. Master Kong, we are willing to pay compensation. Even half of our property is fine. We only ask that you spare their lowly lives. Master Kong, it's all our fault for not teaching them well. Many of their elders also scrambled to kneel and beg for mercy on their behalf. Chapter 134. Forget it. I, Kong Teichu, can take all of your assets. I will put them under your name for now. Jiang Tian calmly waved his hand in disdain. The assets of these people were worth at least 300 billion. If they gave Jiang Tian half of it, it would still be worth hundreds of billions. However, Jiang Tian didn't need to sign any agreement with them. He could take it away if he wanted to. This was the power of a self-cultivator. He could take whatever he wanted. Okay, that's all for now. Hongya, if you have any array materials, send them to my hotel. With that, Jiang Tian nodded at Chao Shixiang and Tang Guozhu and left with Ghost Kick. The next day, the Wei family's great change swept across the entire southern Wuxia like a hurricane. For a time, this earth-shattering news spread throughout Yangcheng and Lingnan's upper-class society. The Wei family was the most powerful family in Jiangnan province. They had been standing for hundreds of years. Today they were defeated in one blow. Wei Shuofeng was killed by a mysterious overlord on Mount Tidehark. The Tang family's young master's legs were broken. The Tang family had to give up half of their assets to save his life. The elites of Jiangbei and the 5 major families of Lingnan have joined forces to support Master Kong as the leader of Lingnan. The Wei family's financial group has been taken over by a mysterious creditor. All the members of the Wei family have been kicked out. Apparently, the government had blocked the news. The news was not reported by any official media. It could only be spread through the grapevine. Who was this mysterious overlord? How old was he? What did he look like? He had defeated old immortal Wei in one night, and took control of the Wei family. Wouldn't he become a rising star on the list of the world's richest people? Many people were speculating and discussing. However, the people of the upper-class society were terrified. Everyone felt that they were in danger. It was said that the military had intervened, but they couldn't stop Kong Teichu. The Wei family had been destroyed overnight. Master Kong was not someone to be trifled with. They couldn't afford to offend him. Quite a few people contacted each other and prepared generous gifts. They wanted to kowtow to Master Kong so that they wouldn't be crushed by Master Kong. Not only that, but Huaxia's martial arts world was also in an uproar. Many martial artists were spreading the news. A dual cultivator of magic and martial arts. He single-handedly swept through the Wei clan and killed Mo Haoxiong. Looks like a dragon has appeared in Lingnan. Strong as a dragon, strong as a dragon. You really don't know Kong Teichu when you're practicing martial arts. Even if you know everything, it's all in vain. A martial arts expert who worshipped the strong side, his thoughts wandering away. Jiangbei Master Kang's rise in power over the past 6 months has not been peaceful. He killed Xing Shanhu on a cruise ship, killed the Grandmaster Hong Tianzhao on Mount Garuda, and defeated the Shenong school in the 100 Medicine Valley. This time it's Mo Haoxiong and Wei Shuofeng. This Kong Teichu is as powerful as a dragon, stirring up a storm. How long does this Kong Teichu plan to kill for? Is no one going to stop him? There were also many martial arts experts who were trembling in fear. It could be said that they were all in danger. Where did this Jiangbei Master Kong come from? Which clan is he from? Whose disciple is he? Could it be Yi Zhantian's? No way. Yi Zhantian's disciples are all in long formation to maintain the order of martial arts. How could he be so ruthless and domineering? There were also many martial artists who were investigating Jiang Tian's identity, trying to find out some information. Kong Teichu is too strong and too scary. It seems that the only thing that can suppress this Kong Teichu is the Martial Arts Alliance Conference. It's impossible for us to take revenge on our own. Yeah, maybe we can only ask the Martial Arts Alliance Conference or those veteran martial arts grandmasters to come out and uphold justice. The Hong clan in Gan Province, the Golden Blade Wang clan in Luoyang, the Tang sect in Sichuan, the Mo clan in Lingnan, and many other martial arts clans and sects that had been crushed by Jiang Tian were all terrified. They shook their heads and sighed, cutting off their own hopes of revenge and pinning their hopes on super experts or martial arts organizations. 2 days later, in the afternoon, a Bugatti Veyron limousine drove slowly to the entrance of the hotel, like a fish in water. The doorman went to open the door and saw an ordinary-looking young man walk out from the back seat. The doorman was shocked. He thought to himself, is he from one of the Red Wall families in Yanjin? Mr. Jiang, shall I send you upstairs? There were 2 other people standing behind the young man. One of them had a long beard that reached his chest, and the other was wearing round-rimmed brass glasses. They were Hong Yi the Enlightened and Su Wenjia. Although Jiang Tian had chased the Wei clan's disciples out of the door, the Wei clan still needed people to support them. Thus, Jiang Tian did not kill the old officials like Hong Yi and Su Wenjia. These people didn't have any grudges against Jiang Tian. To put it bluntly, they were just taking his money to get rid of him. Hong Yi and Su Wenjia were more than happy to work for him. If they could work for Master Kong, they could get some pointers from Jiang Tian. Wouldn't their spells improve by leaps and bounds? No need. You can leave now. Jiang Tian shook his head. Yes. Then we will take our leave first. We will send the materials for the formation over in the afternoon. Adept Redleaf and Su Wenjia cupped their fists and bowed deeply, then left with respectful looks on their faces. Brother-in-law, where did you go? When Jiang Tian came back to the room, Zhao Qianru pinched Jiang Tian's arm and said angrily, I didn't see you last night. It was raining and thundering 2 nights ago. We went to your room but you weren't there. You scared us to death. Don't tell me you went to climb the window of some rich girl in Yangqing? Zhao Xueqing joked. Well, I really didn't. Jiang Tian raised his hands in surrender and said apologetically, I was wrong. Please forgive me. From today onwards, I will focus on accompanying you. If Daoist Hong Yi and the others were here, their eyeballs would definitely fall out of their sockets. The Grand Master Kong, a dual cultivator of magic and martial arts, a grandmaster of the divine list, who even defeated Wei Shuofeng in a single blow, would actually raise his hands and beg for mercy to 2 ordinary girls? How could they know that Jiang Tian had spent tens of thousands of years in the starry sky? His heart had long since been tempered to be as hard as steel and as cold as ice. Only in front of his beloved wife and family would he let down his guard and reveal some of his youthful nature. In fact, Jiang Tian had kept his conflict with Wei Shuofeng a secret from the 2 girls. Last night, when he killed his way into the Wei clan, Jiang Tian naturally didn't tell the Zhao Xueqing sisters to prevent them from worrying. Now it seemed that they were even more worried, making him feel a little guilty. You said you would bring us to the Feast of Bliss, but you left without saying goodbye. This is the last day, and we almost missed it. Zhao Qianru said angrily. Without Jiang Tian present, Shen Mange was also very cautious and told them to stay in the hotel. It's easy to go to the Feast of Bliss. Let's go now. Jiang Tian smiled faintly and immediately called the Tang family's patriarch, Tang Xinye. He ordered, I'm going to the Feast of Bliss to have some fun. Clear the place and don't let anyone else in. Don't follow me either. My wife likes peace and quiet. What? Clear the place? Brother-in-law, are you kidding? Zhao Qianru couldn't believe it. The Feast of Bliss was attended by all the major families in Yangcheng. Who could shake such a terrifying force? Yet Jiang Tian, don't listen to Qianru. You caused a ruckus that day and offended so many people. It's too dangerous to go now, Zhao Xueqing hurriedly persuaded. Although she knew that Jiang Tian was a powerful man in Jiangbei, this was Yangcheng. Even if those tycoons couldn't defeat Jiang Tian, they could still ask the political forces behind them to do it. It's okay. My husband now is not the same as before. The vast Lingnan is my world. Sensing his wife's concern, Jiang Tian caressed her soft cheeks and said softly. Even though they knew that Jiang Tian was very powerful, Zhao Xueqing and her sister didn't believe that Jiang Tian could take over the Jiangnan area in a short time. Zhao Xueqing smiled but didn't say anything. Zhao Qianru suddenly had an idea. She clapped her hands and said, "Then let Shen Mange come with us. She can handle those people in Jiangnan area." Okay, Jiang Tian was helpless. It seemed that his rise was too fast. Even his family couldn't accept it. Yangcheng First People's Hospital. Outside the ward, Zhou Xianya and Lu Fan, a couple who looked like a talented couple, were anxiously waiting. Lu Fan carried 2 large bags of expensive nutrition and tonics in his hands. Early in the morning, he heard that the awesome man he had worshipped for many years was beaten and hospitalized. He hurriedly called Zhou Xianya. Regardless of his concussion, he ran over to visit him. By the way, he waved his flag and shouted to improve the relationship between them. His heart was uneasy, and he was at a loss. Just who dared to break Tang Xiao's legs? This was a bit too ruthless. Zhou Xianya, who was wearing light makeup, looked calm on the surface. She was more or less excited inside. She dreamed of being a smart woman like Cinderella, who could hook up with a prince when she was a teenager. She dreamed of living in a gorgeous castle and being in the company of nobles and celebrities. Today, she finally had the opportunity to get close to the circle she had been longing for. Her vanity was greatly satisfied. Top tycoons, rich socialites, mansions, luxury cars, and luxurious clothes and jewelry. Once upon a time, these things were so far away from Zhou Xianya, but now they seemed to be within reach. The doctors and nurses routinely checked the patient. After that, Lu Fan and Zhou Xianya entered the ward. In the VIP single ward, Tang Xiaozi was wrapped up tightly like a mummy, only showing his eyes, mouth, and nose. Zhou Xianya was a woman after all. Seeing this situation, her heart trembled. She thought that his legs were probably crippled. Lu Fan put down the 2 bags of nutrition and tonics. He first greeted Tang Xiaozi's mother and girlfriend, and then squatted by the bed and pretended to be nervous to ask about the injury. He showed grief and indignation, as if he couldn't wait to sacrifice himself for his brother. Tang Xiaozi waved his hand impatiently and glanced at Lu Fan, who used to try to get close to him. His eyes were desperate and he said weakly, "Okay, don't talk nonsense. This kind of person is not someone you and I can afford to offend. You don't know that even number 2 of the military commission came forward for us, but he couldn't stop him. It's good that I'm still alive." Lu Fan was speechless and nodded with a smile. But in his heart he was horrified. Just who was it that could make Tang Xiaozi, a noble, so helpless that he couldn't even think about revenge? At this moment, Zhou Xianya recalled the sensitive words number 2 of the military commission, and her heart was in turmoil. Yangcheng's young master's status was truly extraordinary. With just a little bit of effort, he was able to reach this level. If this matter were to blow up, these youths, who were only a few years older than him, would be able to stir up even more waves. But at the same time, she was even more curious about the person who injured Tang Xiaozi. Zhou Xianya felt that she was a lucky woman. She was forced out of Linzhou City by Jiang Tian and left for Yangcheng City. But now she was doing well, which determined her future. Chapter 135. What true love? What pure feelings? In today's society, there was no power or money. Everything else was nonsense. Just as Zhou Xianya was lost in her thoughts, the door to the ward was pushed open and a group of people rushed in. The room immediately became crowded. The man in the lead had a scholarly temperament, but his expression was gloomy. Lu Fan grabbed Zhou Xianya's hand and carefully retreated to a corner of the room. He was a peripheral figure in this circle and knew where to stand, But he didn't forget to show off in front of women. He whispered to Zhou Xinya, "That's young Master Bai, one of the 4 young masters of Yangqing City. You've seen him at the Banquet of Bliss, right?" Zhou Xinya nodded thoughtfully. She was no stranger to the flashy title of the 4 young masters of Yangqing City. But she had only just come into contact with this circle, and didn't know how deep the waters of Yangqing City were. She was deeply shocked, just like Granny Lu in Dream of the Red Chamber. "Xiaozi, we still have to apologize to Master Kong. The older generation doesn't feel at ease." Bai Chao's first words after entering the room shocked Lu Fan and Zhou Xinya, causing their faces to turn pale. Wei Jinghu's family also received news of the Wei clan's great changes, and immediately called for an emergency meeting. The Wei clan had lost to an extraordinary person known as Grandmaster Jiang, and this expert had now become the leader of Lingnan. Speaking of which, I'm a distant relative of Wei Shuofeng. Although we've already traveled 5 times and don't move around much, we still have to be careful. If he tries to eliminate us by the roots, we'll be implicated. Wei Jinghu's face was grave and fearful, afraid that he would be implicated. At this moment he was a bit suspicious. Jiang Tian had advised him to stay away from Wei Shuofeng, but 2 days later, news of the Wei clan's downfall spread. Could it be that this matter had something to do with him? But very quickly he suppressed this thought. It was just a madman spouting nonsense. What foresight could he have? What's there to be afraid of? Will the Tang, Bai, and Tai clans of Yangqing City just sit by and do nothing? Wei Jieqiong was unconvinced. "Jieqiong, watch your words." Wei Tianduan was an official, so he was more well-informed. "I heard that this Master Kong is very powerful. He's a martial grandmaster and an expert in spells. Even Wei Shuofeng was killed by him. Right now these few great clans have already submitted." "What? Even the Tai clan, Bai clan, Tang clan, and other clans have submitted to him?" Below the hall, there were cries of surprise. After all, the people of the Wei family were still too young to know much about the secrets of the world of martial arts and spells. They had no idea what martial arts and spells meant. However, they knew all too well how powerful the Bai, Tai, and Tang families were. They controlled both politics and business, and had powerful backgrounds. It could be said that they could cover the sky with one hand in Lingnan. But now, these big families had been suppressed. What kind of person was this Master Kong? Furthermore, I've received news that everyone in the Wei clan has been chased out of the house. Master Kong had also stripped them of their assets. At that time, the higher-ups of the military were present, but they didn't stop it. Instead, they facilitated it. Wei Tianduan's expression turned even graver as he dropped another bombshell. Everyone was flabbergasted. Overnight, a great clan that had stood for 100 years. Not only did the military not stop it, they even facilitated it. It seemed that this Master Kong was not only powerful, but also had a powerful background. He had connections in the court. In that case, this Master Kong can be said to be a ruthless person. The more Wei Jinghu heard, the more scared he became. Cold sweat poured down like rain as he said in a trembling voice, "It seems that we still have to pay a visit to Master Kong and tell him about our relationship with the Wei clan. We really haven't interacted with each other all these years." There was complete silence in the hall. No one dared to interrupt. This kind of person was too far away from them. It was basically a conversation between the most outstanding Wei Tianduan and Wei Jinghu. "Father, that's true, but," Wei Tianduan sighed helplessly. "That Master Kong is like a dragon in the heavens. How difficult is it to meet him? I heard that even people of the Tang clan heads level have a hard time meeting him. No matter how difficult it is, you have to think of a way. This concerns the life and death of our clan." Wei Jinghu shook his head and sighed. This matter was too big a blow for him. It was as if he had aged 10 years in an instant. "Okay, I'll think of a way and see if the Tang clan head can give us a way out." Wei Tianduan immediately dialed Tang Jinya's number, and bowed as he begged and pleaded. Moments later, Wei Tianduan hung up and sighed. "I have a way." What did he say? Everyone was excited. The Tang clan had said that with our clan's status, we don't have the right to participate. However, the Tideheart Golf Course belongs to the Tang clan. He can have everyone disguise themselves as caddies and attendants to sneak in. Wei Tianduan's expression was extremely complicated. Hearing this, everyone's heart was filled with mixed feelings. Sigh, the Wei clan didn't even have the right to meet Master Kong. They could only disguise themselves as caddies and attendants. To think that they had been so proud of themselves and considered themselves part of the upper class. Now that they thought about it, it was simply a joke. Now do you understand how far we are from a true top clan? Wei Jinghu felt bitter in his heart. He sighed and said earnestly, all of you must work hard. Otherwise, you will suffer endless humiliation like today. Dad, what do you mean? Are we going or not? Wei Tianduan asked with a frown. We're going. How can we not go? Wei Jinghu stood up, feeling as if a heavy burden had been lifted off his shoulders. He said in a clear voice, as long as I can see Grandmaster Jiang and protect our Wei clan's foundation, I'm willing to exchange my life for it. Wei Jinghu and the others hurriedly drove to the Tidehark golf course. On the way, Wei Jieqiong and the others saw that the originally bustling banquet of bliss was now empty. According to the rumors in the circle of young masters, the mysterious Master Kong was going to play here, and had cleared the place. Sigh, this Master Kong is so capable, Wei Jiehui said sourly. He's much more impressive than Tang Xiaozi and the other young masters. He's the most ferocious person in Lingnan in 100 years. Wei Jieqiong smiled. Brother, you can do it. Our family will also have a city hall leader in the future. City hall leader? Wei Yang laughed disdainfully. According to what I heard, even city hall officials don't have the qualifications to meet Master Kong. They're not even fit to carry his shoes. Wei Jiehui, who was rather proud, could only shake his head and smile bitterly. He knew that although his cousin's words were unpleasant, they were true to a certain extent. How could he compare to that godlike Master Kong? The family arrived at the golf course and met up with a staff member of the Tang clan. Everyone changed into the uniforms of caddies, security guards, and janitors. Then, they arrived at the golf course and blended in with the staff, quietly waiting for Master Kang's arrival. The Tide Listening golf course was the property of the Tang clan. It had a par of 108 on 27 holes. It was a pretty good venue. Golf had been labeled as a sport for nobles for some time now. Only a handful of people in Yangqing could come here to play. Even the Wei clan members had never been here before. They immediately looked around as if they had entered a grand garden. However, they didn't dare to speak loudly and only dared to whisper. Oh my, so many big shots. Suddenly Wei Yang exclaimed. He couldn't believe his eyes as he watched a group of luxuriously dressed middle-aged and old men walk past the golf course. Tang Jinye of the Tang clan, Bai Tianlei of the Bai clan, Tai Yingjie of the Tai clan. Almost all the billionaires in Yangqing are here. The Wei clan members spoke as if they were family treasures. Even Wei Jiehui was moved. His eyes shone with admiration. Tang Jinye and the rest wore heavy expressions. They didn't speak to each other as they silently entered a tea room next to the golf course. Hongya, is it appropriate for us not to accompany Mr. Jiang? Isn't it too disrespectful? Tang Jinye asked solemnly as they sat down at the round table in the tea room. Mr. Jiang only wants to play with his beloved wife. He doesn't want us to disturb him. Those were his exact words. Hongya sipped his tea and said calmly, I'm worried that something might happen. What if we anger Master Kong? Bai Tianlei of the Bai clan said with a frown. Don't worry about that. I've already instructed the management staff. They will definitely serve you well. Tang Jinye promised. What about security? Send a few bodyguards to follow them from afar. A tycoon suggested. Idiots. Su Wenjie scolded. Master Kang's dermic powers are not Taoist physique, but ethereal enlightenment. His martial arts have reached the transcendent state. Why would he need someone to protect him? He really felt that this group of rich people was extremely stupid. He knocked on the table and scolded. People who cultivate the Dharma are peaceful and deluded. They like to be quiet and don't like to move. If you disturb Grandmaster Zhang's leisure time, you can just wait to die. Master Su is right. The tycoons and officials were so shocked that their faces turned pale. They quickly nodded in agreement. If you ask me, you shouldn't have come here to apologize. That's unnecessary. Hongya played with his teacup and said proudly, Master Kong is a celestial being. Why would he care about the offense of you ants? That's true, Tang Zhinya said humbly. But no one will blame us for being polite. After all, Xiaoza and the others have offended Master Kong. If we, as their parents, don't express our attitude, we won't be able to rest easy. Then you can just say that you met Master Kong during a meeting here. Adept Redleaf rolled his eyes and said resentfully. Grandmaster Jiang said that he wanted to clear the area. If you annoy him, I won't be able to bear the consequences. Hongya, how could we let you take the risk for nothing? Here is 10 million. It's a token of our appreciation. Please accept it. Tang Zhinya quickly handed over a bank card. On the other side, Jiang Tian had already brought Zhao Xueqing and her sister, Shen Mange, and Ghost Kick to the banquet of bliss. They sat on the yacht and surfed the waves. They also played water trapeze, beach racing, and sunbathed for a while. Everyone was in a good mood. Jiang Tian, what's going on? Why is there no one here? Zhao Xueqing was shocked to find that the area had been cleared. The private beach that stretched for a few kilometers was empty. It had become an empty space. There was only a vice president sent by the Tang family to accompany and serve them. His words were appropriate and polite. You still don't believe me? I'm such a failure as a husband. Jiang Tian shook his head and sighed. In fact, he was very proud of himself. The vice president of the Tang family's real estate company smiled humbly and said, Master Kong is telling the truth. Jiangnan's #1 spellcaster was defeated by Master Kong 2 days ago. At that time, the earth shook and the mountains shook. Now Jiangnan is revered by Master Kong. The seagull yacht that you were on just now is now under Master Kang's name. Brother-in-law, you're awesome. I worship you to death. Zhao Qianru suddenly became very excited. She jumped up and wrapped her snow-white legs around Jiang Tian's waist. Her jade-like arms wrapped around Jiang Tian's neck and hung on Jiang Tian's body. Chapter 136. That's nothing. Hey, you're an adult now. Can't you be a little more mature? Jiang Tian was speechless, but he didn't take his sister-in-law's adoration to heart. Back then, he had swept through the cosmos and killed countless immortal emperors and demon emperors. He had once controlled billions of light-years of stellar territory. So what if he defeated a mere Wei Shuofeng and became the ruler of Lingnan? If he broke through to the late stage of qi refinement, he would be able to kill even Dao body-perfected persons. He would be invincible even in Wuxia. Brother-in-law, give me that yacht of yours, Zhao Qianru said with a smile. Without waiting for Jiang Tian to speak, the vice president hurriedly said, That's easy. Miss Zhao, just pick one. I'll give it to you. Okay. That's great. I also want that sports car over there. Zhao Qianru dashed over to the booth to choose a yacht and sports car. However, Zhao Xueqing's heart was trembling. Her expression was incomparably solemn, and her plump chest heaved violently. She was speechless for a long time. Although she had never seen how terrifying Wei Shuofeng was, she had long heard of the power of the Tang, Tai, and Bai families. And Wei Shuofeng was regarded as their leader, so there was no need to talk about his abilities. She didn't dare to say anything else, but at least he was much more powerful than Mao Mountain's Yang Guochang. She then recalled the rumor that 2 nights ago, there had been a thunderous explosion on Tidehark Mountain, and huge waves in the shallow waters of Cape Beach. It was as if a hurricane had erupted. She could guess that it was probably Jiang Tian and Wei Shuofeng who were fighting. Only the heavens knew how much effort Jiang Tian had put in to defeat Wei Shuofeng and how much risk he had taken. A battle of arts was even more dangerous than a martial artist. If Jiang Tian had the slightest mishap, he would have been a corpse. Jiang Tian, why did you fight with Wei Shuofeng? Suddenly, Zhao Xueqing asked with a sobbing tone. Is it because of a power struggle, or because Tang Xiaoza asked him to make a move against you? Or is it like what you said, that you want to shake the world for me? Seeing that Zhao Xueqing was so agitated, Jiang Tian was stunned. He touched his nose and asked, a little bit of both. Why are you so angry? Jiang Tian, do you know? Zhao Xueqing's beautiful eyes were filled with tears as she said angrily, I don't need your wealth or power. If Tang Xiaozi insists on the payment, then return it to him. We don't lack money now. I don't want you to become famous for me. I don't want any glory when I'm with you. I just want us to be safe and loving each other. But you're always fighting and killing. Have you ever cared about my feelings? With that, she waved her hand and walked away. Knowing that Zhao Xueqing was concerned about him, Jiang Tian was very touched, but he also felt bitter. He didn't know how to explain it. After 10,000 years of cultivation, he knew how terrifying the human heart was and how cruel the competition was. Cultivators had an endless desire to become strong, but cultivation resources were limited. It could be said that if one wanted to become strong, they couldn't avoid fighting and killing. However, Zhao Xueqing was only a mortal woman. Her experience was relatively simple. How could she understand all this in such a short time? He quickly followed her and hugged Zhao Xueqing's soft waist from behind. He said in a low voice, Qing'er, it's my fault. If I have any plans in the future, I'll definitely discuss them with you. Humph, you're now the famous Master Kong. What's there to discuss with a mortal like me? You can go and be respected and worshipped by tens of thousands of people. What's the point of my worry? Zhao Xueqing sobbed. She shook off Jiang Tian and walked towards the beach with a cold face. Qing'er, I apologize. Please forgive me this once. Jiang Tian sighed helplessly. His face was full of worry. The vice president beside him was dumbfounded. This Master Kong was so capable. How could he not be angry when his wife threw a tantrum like that? He was even trying to please her. He was simply a slave to his wife. Sister, isn't brother-in-law fine now? He's fine. Don't be angry. Zhao Qianru also noticed the argument between the two. She quickly followed and hugged her arm to persuade her. Go away. If you didn't insist on coming to the blissful banquet, why would there be so much trouble? Zhao Xueqing shook her arm and shook her off. Her face was already full of tears. She said angrily, You're happy now. Others gave you a yacht and a sports car. But have you thought about how much danger your brother-in-law took? Did she eat gunpowder? Zhao Qianru also retreated. She didn't know how to persuade her sister. Seeing that Jiang Tian's face was not very good, she quickly said, Brother-in-law, don't be angry. Sister is just too worried about you. And I understand. Jiang Tian's mood was very complicated. He was also speechless for a long time. Zhao Xueqing hugged her knees with both hands and pressed her head on her knees. She sat on the beach and looked sadly at the undulating waves of the sponge. No one knew what she was thinking. Jiang Tian stood not far behind her and silently accompanied her. He stood and waited with a cigarette in his mouth. He didn't let Zhao Qianru and Xin Mange disturb her. After a long time, Zhao Xueqing gradually calmed down. She turned around and waved at Jiang Tian. She shouted, Come here. There was still no smile on her face. Jiang Tian hurriedly threw away the cigarette and ran over. He bowed and said with a smile, My dear wife, do you have any instructions? I treated you like that just now. Aren't you angry? Zhao Xueqing touched Jiang Tian's cheek and looked at Jiang Tian softly. Not angry, not angry. It was my fault. We said that I must let you know when I fight. You must be thirsty. Drink. Jiang Tian was more or less relieved. It was good that she was willing to communicate. He quickly handed her a glass of freshly squeezed juice with a fawning face. The vice president next to him was embarrassed again. I originally thought that I had no status in the family. I didn't expect Master Kong to be worse than me. It seems that all men in the world are the same. A moment later he slapped his thigh and muttered, How is this no status? This is loving my wife. It seems that I still have a lot of room for improvement in the aspect of spoiling my wife. Zhao Xueqing rested her head on Jiang Tian's shoulder and looked at the undulating sea. A trace of sadness appeared on her face. It's my fault. I couldn't keep up with your footsteps. What? Jiang Tian was puzzled. It's like an ant watching two fierce lions fight. It will feel like the earth is shaking and the sky is about to collapse. I'm the ant, and you and Wei Shuofeng are the fierce lions and dragons. Zhao Xueqing's eyes were sad and disappointed. She said faintly, I don't have the ability. I can't even play the white ape-bone zither you gave me. Qing'er, don't say that. Jiang Tian was slightly stunned. He didn't expect Zhao Xueqing to have such a big change after thinking for a while. Jiang Tian, if it's possible, let me become as strong as you. I want to stand shoulder to shoulder with you. Zhao Xueqing turned her head and looked seriously at Jiang Tian with her clear eyes. She said softly, if you're like a big tree with your copper branches and iron trunk, then I want to be a cotton plant with my own red flowers, like a heroic torch. She took Jiang Tian's big hand and drew circles on Jiang Tian's palm with her slender fingers. She said gently but firmly, we'll share the cold waves, wind, thunder, and lightning together. We'll also share the rainbows, sunshine, and rain together. We'll never be separated, and we'll be together in life and death. I love your majestic body, and I also love the position you insist on and the land you stand on. Zhao Xueqing said all the emotions in her heart. She then looked at Jiang Tian with deep affection and asked, do you understand my feelings? I understand. Qing'er, don't worry. I'll stand with you and watch this picturesque world. Jiang Tian's eyes flashed with determination when he heard this. Actually, Jiang Tian was a little hesitant about whether to bring Xueqing along on the path of cultivation. The life of a mortal was too short. Even if they lived a long life, they could only live for 100 years. He loved Zhao Xueqing too much and owed her too much. Even if he wanted to stay with her forever, it wouldn't be enough. But if he wanted to bring this girl along on the path of cultivation, or even step into the star field, it would be unavoidable. The road ahead would be filled with endless dangers. Jiang Tian didn't want her to be in danger. However, at this moment, after hearing Qing'er's tender confession, Jiang Tian no longer had any doubts in his heart. Since she was willing, then, let's cultivate together. Thank you, hubby. You've opened the door to a new world for me. I didn't keep up with your footsteps and I even blamed you. Zhao Xueqing was filled with tenderness and apology. She hugged Jiang Tian's body tightly and rested her forehead on his neck. Zhao Xueqing calmed down and started chatting and laughing with Jiang Tian again. Zhao Qianru ran over and said with a smile, sister, let's go play golf. I've always wanted to learn. All right. I'll let you, this wild girl, play the so-called aristocratic sport and pretend to be a socialite. Zhao Xueqing's beautiful eyes curved into a beautiful crescent moon shape as she gladly agreed. Soon, the vice president brought Jiang Tian and the others to the golf course. Vice President Fan, don't follow us anymore. We're just playing. Zhao Xueqing said gently. She had a tranquil state of mind and didn't like being fawned upon by others. And all right. Mr. Jiang, Madam Jiang, I wish you all a good time. The vice president bowed respectfully and then left respectfully. It was August in Yangcheng and the sun was scorching hot. The scorching sun was like arrows mercilessly shooting down. The weather was unbearably hot. Wei Jieqiong and the rest were sweating under the scorching sun. It was as if they were in a steamer. Wei Jinghu was old and weak. His face was incomparably pale and his mouth was dry. He was about to get a heat stroke. But they gritted their teeth and persevered, patiently waiting for the legendary Master Kong to arrive. Just when everyone was feeling a little weak, they suddenly saw Jiang Tian and the rest walking over while chatting and laughing. Jiang Tian, what are you doing here? Wei Jieqiong was shocked. She quickly walked over and scolded in a low voice. Is this a place you can come to? Why can't we come here? Before Jiang Tian and his wife could speak, Zhao Qianru sneered. But you guys, this place is clearly cleared. How did you manage to sneak in? Chapter 137. After seeing the ugly faces of her grandfather's family in Yangcheng City, Zhao Qianru was immediately disgusted with them and completely stood on her brother-in-law's side. You should be here to apologize to young Master Bai and the others, right? Weren't you quite arrogant back then? Now you know fear? Wei Yong curled his lips in disdain as he shook his head and sneered. It's fine if you want to apologize to young Master Bai and young Master Tang. Wei Jiehui walked over with a livid face. He lowered his voice and scolded sternly, but you have to give it some time. Today the Bai family, Tang family, and other big families in Yangqing City are welcoming an important guest. If you disturb them at this time, your legs will be broken. I advise you to leave quickly. Hee, do they have the guts? Can't scare them to death? Don't worry, they should be here to kowtow to me. Jiang Tian sipped his freshly squeezed fruit juice calmly and couldn't be bothered with him. Jiang Tian, are you crazy? How can you speak like that? Shut up. When Wei Jieqiong heard this, she was shocked, angry, and anxious. She wished she could sew Jiang Tian's mouth shut and scolded him angrily. If you're here to apologize, then apologize. Why are you still so stubborn? Do you know that you've already angered everyone, and yet you're still spouting nonsense? If these big shots hear you, you won't be able to leave alive. Madman. You're really crazy. You're already here to kneel and admit your mistakes. Yet you're still boasting shamelessly and arrogantly. Wei Jiehue was so angry that his entire body trembled. He scolded. Hurry up and leave. Don't anger those big shots and lead the trouble to our Wei family. What right do you have to ask me to leave? Zhao Qianru said angrily. What a joke. Didn't you already announce that you've severed ties with us? Why are you wearing the clothes of a caddy? Jiang Tian suddenly widened his eyes and looked at them with interest. He asked curiously, isn't your Wei family a rich and powerful family? Why do you care? We'll wear whatever we want. We were here to experience life. The faces of the Wei family members stiffened, and they were extremely embarrassed. They thought to themselves that they wanted to meet Master Kong, but they didn't have the qualifications to come in. How could they tell you the secret? Haha, experiencing life? Very good, then bring me a club. Jiang Tian found it very interesting and said with a mischievous smile. Jiang Tian, don't be so arrogant. If you don't go out now, don't blame this old man for turning hostile. At the side, Wei Jinghu, who'd been watching coldly with a livid expression, couldn't sit still any longer, and he stepped forward and berated. Grandpa, what's the point of talking nonsense with him? I'll just beat him up and throw him out. Wei Yang rolled up his sleeves, pulled out a golf club, and shouted arrogantly. Tang Zhinya and the heroes of Yangqing greet Master Kong. Right at this moment, Tang Zhinya suddenly led the group of Yangqing's patriarchs and tycoons over and bowed in unison like a pack of loyal dogs meeting their master. They spoke in the most humble tone they had ever used in their lives. At this moment, the entire world came to a standstill. It was as if the bright sunlight shining on everyone, the wind passing through them, and the clouds in the sky had all frozen in an instant. Master Kong. The members of the Wei family were all shocked to see these big shots, who could do anything they wanted in Lingnan, kneeling in front of Jiang Tian. They couldn't believe it. Wasn't he a useless disciple of the Jiang family? Wasn't he just a useless piece of trash? How did he become Master Kong, who even the tycoons of Yangqing City had to bow to? What the hell is going on? What? He's Master Kong? Wei Jieqiong's pretty face changed color, as if a basin of ice water had been poured over her head. Her entire body turned cold as she stood rooted to the spot. Clang! The golf club in Wei Yang's hand fell to the ground, and his face was as pale as a sheet of paper. He's Master Kong? Wei Jiehue couldn't believe it. His legs went weak, and his eyes were filled with horror as if his eyeballs were about to pop out of their sockets. He's Master Kong? Wei Jinghu only felt his head buzzing, and his high blood pressure was about to act up. He couldn't even stand properly. Who told you to come over? Didn't you say not to disturb me? Looking down at the tycoons of Yangqing City, Jiang Tian frowned, and a trace of disgust flashed in the depths of his eyes. Then he turned around and glared at Taoist Master Hongya. Taoist Master Hongya was so scared that he quivered. He hurriedly stepped forward and respectfully cupped his fists. Master Kong, they insisted on coming. This junior couldn't stop them even if I wanted to. At the banquet, my good-for-nothing son offended Master Kong. He, Bai Chofei, and Iron Monarch are now kneeling outside the door. They want to apologize to Master Kong again. Seeing Jiang Tian's displeased expression, Tang Zhinya and the others were so scared that their faces turned deathly pale. Cold sweat poured down their bodies, and their legs trembled slightly. His waist, which was already deeply bent once more as he squeezed out a flattering smile, and said with a flattering smile, When the Wei family members heard this, they were simply dumbfounded and horrified. Bai Choufei, Iron Monarch, and Tang Xiaozi were the top young masters of Yangqing City. But now, they were actually kneeling and apologizing to him? It seemed that he really was that invincible Master Kong who had swept through Yangqing City, and even defeated the Wei family. Oh, then let's continue playing. Let them kneel. Jiang Tian's expression didn't change at all. He pulled Zhao Xueqing and walked toward the golf course. At this time, Wei Jinghu's heart was filled with complex emotions. Deep regret surged like a tide, and even his intestines turned green. He never thought that this cheap grandson-in-law was actually the famous Master Kong. If not for the fact that he didn't recognize the real person's face and ruined their relationship, wouldn't the Wei family be flying with him as their backer? No, I can't miss this opportunity. Wei Jinghu cheered himself on in his heart, silently shouting. After all, he had been immersed in the system for many years, and his old face had long been as thick as a city wall. How could he let go of this opportunity to curry favor with Master Kong, just because of a bit of insignificant self-respect? He only hesitated for a moment, and then quickly caught up. He nodded and bowed with a flattering smile. Honorable grandson-in-law, how about you stay at our home tonight? It's more convenient to be a family member. Seeing this, the Wei family members all looked at Jiang Tian with worry and expectation. They were anxious and fearful that Jiang Tian would refuse, or even become hostile. Grandfather, weren't you the one who left in a huff that day, cutting off all relations with us? Jiang Tian had yet to speak when Zhao Qianru retorted sarcastically and said with a cold smile. What? Now that you know my brother-in-law is Master Kong, you want to curry favor with him? Isn't it a bit late? That day, when we visited you with bags of gifts, did the Wei family give us any face? Zhao Xueqing was also very unhappy in her heart, and her little face tensed up as she sneered. That day, I was confused for a moment. Master Kong, no matter what, we're all family. You must be magnanimous, magnanimous. Wei Jinghu was extremely embarrassed, and he smiled embarrassedly. Forget it, Elder Wei has good intentions, Jiang Tian said indifferently. I'm busy with worldly affairs, and I'm afraid I don't have time this time. Next time. Everyone sought advantages and avoided disadvantages. He'd been in the Outerium for 10,000 years, and he'd long since gotten used to seeing many cultivators bully the weak and fear the strong. And even golden immortals were no exception. Not to mention, what about these shallow mortals? Moreover, he had to give Wei Feng face, right? Hearing this, Wei Jinghu seemed as if he'd heard heavenly music, and he was so happy that he almost flew up. The large stone pressing down on his heart suddenly fell down, and he nodded and bowed. Master Kong, it's good that you're willing to come. It's good that you're willing to come. You can set the time, and our family's door is always open for you. We'll definitely welcome you. Outside the Tidehark golf course, it was close to noon. The scorching hot sun and the 40+ degrees temperature made people sweat profusely in just a few minutes. Lu Fan, who was unwilling to kneel every year when he went back to his hometown to pay respects to his ancestors, knelt under the scorching sun for 2 whole hours, not daring to complain in the slightest, not daring to show the slightest bit of resentment. Moreover, he didn't have the qualifications to complain at all, because Tang Xiaozi, Bai Choufei, Tai Ming Huang, and many other peak young masters who were 10 times more powerful than him were also kneeling on the ground. If news of this scene were to spread, it would definitely stun a group of people, and they wouldn't dare believe it. The peak young masters of Yangcheng were originally high and mighty like heavenly royalty, but at this moment, they were all forced to kneel on the ground, prostrating themselves in worship. In particular, Tang Xiaozi's legs were still in plaster, and his arms were supporting 2 special crutches as he knelt on the ground. After kneeling for a long time, his wounds were torn open a second time, and he grimaced in pain, his pale face twisting in pain. The dozen or so Yangcheng's young masters who didn't directly clash with Jiang Tian watched silently, and they were filled with grief and grief. They had previously wanted to help Tang Xiaozi up, but Tang Xiaozi sternly refused, as if letting him up would be harming him. Zhou Xinya was also in the crowd. Only by acting to the end would there be gains. She also understood this principle, and so she insisted on following the crowd. Only Zhou Xinya was puzzled as to how powerful the person who beat Bai Choufei, until his legs were fractured and still had to kneel and beg for forgiveness was. Tang Xiaozi, Lu Fan, and the others knelt for another half an hour, swaying and almost fainting. Only then did a fleet of luxury cars slowly drive out of the golf course, carrying an insufferably arrogant aura. In particular, the silver-gray Bentley's body was bright and dazzling, oppressively rich. When it passed by the kneeling young masters, the brown anti-see-through window in the back of the Bentley was lowered halfway, and a jade-white palm reached out and gently waved, releasing a strong sense of disdain, as if telling them to get up. The pitiful young masters of Yangqing City felt as if they had been pardoned. They gasped and thanked the driver, and then collapsed on the side of the road. Among the trembling crowd, Zhou Xinya looked into the car window out of curiosity. Her view was not good, so she was surprised and didn't see the person in the car clearly, but her heart still twitched violently. Could it be him? She saw half a face and an ordinary white t-shirt, and couldn't help but be horrified. Her beautiful eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Lu Fan, Zhou Xinya. After resting for a while, Tang Xiaozi finally stood up with the help of Tai Ming Huang and Bai Choufei. He gritted his teeth and glared at the two coldly. His gaze was as sharp as a knife, full of hatred and resentment, as if it could kill. At this moment, he hated these two people to death. If they hadn't gotten the information wrong and fanned the flames, how could he have foolishly confronted Jiang Tian? How could he have ended up with half of his family's property, broken legs, and humiliated so miserably? After all, he had forgotten about Zhao Xueqing for a long time. Young Master Tang, Lu Fan and Zhou Xinya shuddered as if a basin of cold water had been poured over their heads. Their eyes were full of panic and fear. Get out of Lingnan, and don't let me see you again. Tang Xiaozi's cheek muscles twitched violently, and his eyes were red. He was like a wolf that was about to devour its prey. Xiaozi, are you going to let them go so easily? Bai Choufei was a ruthless person, and he was bound to vent the anger in his heart. He waved his hand and said with a resentful face, "Men, cripple these two blind bastards." Yes. Immediately, 7 or 8 bodyguards in black swarmed up, kicked the two to the ground, and smashed them with their truncheons. The muffled sounds of truncheons hitting people's bodies, miserable screams, cries, and pitiful begging echoed on Cape Beach and Tide Listening Mountain for a long time. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.